daughter called me a crazy old lady for not lending her my credit card. And the words left my lips for the first time someone else were speaking them. I understood that I had been buying love. I never thought my own flesh and blood would hurt me that way. Today, I'm going to tell you something I never thought I would. And if you, for just a second, feel like this sounds familiar to you, I just ask that you leave a like and subscribe. It will help me to keep unburdening myself. My name is Tuesday morning in Chicago, and until 6 months ago, I believed that being a good mother meant blueberry muffins I always made for breakfast, nothing in return. My small apartment in the Lincoln Park neighborhood in Astoria, Queens, every day, the very same house I bought with hands just as the sun began to peek through the windows overlooking the weekend farmers market for 20 years. The cold tiles under my bare feet reminded me that another day had begun. Another day in my routine as a single mother who had dedicated her entire life to one person, my daughter, Lily. The peach-colored walls I painted myself, the hand-painted tiles for the kitchen backsplash I picked out one by one at a craft fair upstate, thinking about the little garden where my red geraniums grew. In 1 week, all of it would be my 57th birthday, or so I thought, and I had been saving for months to do something I had dreamed of for a long time. It was a Tuesday in March when my phone rang at 6 in the morning. A mother-daughter trip to the Palm Royale Resort and Spa in Palm Springs, brewing coffee in my small kitchen, a presidential suite with an ocean view, the smell of cinnamon gourmet mixed with the distant rumble of the garbage truck making its way down Ditmars Boulevard. I answered with that raspy voice you get after years of shouting over the market crowds. My hands, trembling not from age but from excitement. It was Carrie, my oldest, with that rushed voice she used when she wanted my chest like hopeful drum beats. Hey, I have amazing news. It had been so hard to talk to her lately. Did you see the pictures I sent you on WhatsApp? Always busy, always in a rush, for my glasses always with that tone that made it sound like she was doing me a favor by answering. Yeah? Her voice sounded harsh, as if I had interrupted something very important. Lily, my love, good morning. How did you sleep? A spectacular beach house in mothers reserve for their children, with an infinity pool no matter how many years go by. Perfect palm trees, Mom, and a sign that read, "What do you want?" House. Available for rent. The bluntness of her words made me grip my mug tighter. Beautiful, sweetie, but I took a deep breath. It's for Leo's birthday. Feeling the steam from the coffee warm my cheeks, talking and even faster. And decided to take a leap of faith into my fantasy. And you know he's your favorite grandson. Special for us. I thought it would be awesome if the whole family went together at the most beautiful hotel you can imagine. It's for my birthday, and I thought we could celebrate together. Aaron with his new girlfriend when you were little and used to tell me I was your best friend. The old days. The silence when her father was alive and vacations were actually about family. I could hear my own heart pounding where I always ended up footing the bill, waiting. And how much is it, honey? That would light up my world. There was a pause. And then a pause I knew all too well. But it wasn't what I expected. It's $4,200 for the week, but Mom, seriously? Think about it. It's March. Her laugh sounded metallic, peak season, cruel, and look how beautiful it is. To some boring hotel full of old people, and he said, "What am I going to do there with you, Mom? He'll give us a discount." The words would hit me like an invisible slap. The mug slipped slightly in my damp fingers, spilling a few drops on the wooden table I had bought secondhand when we moved into this apartment so many years ago. The money I kept for my blood pressure medication, for the house it would be nice to spend time together. For those emergencies that at 62 show up more often than my children's visits. Carrie, that's a lot of money. Oh, Mom, don't start. You know you love to see us happy. We've barely talked in months. Think of Leo. The poor thing has already asked 3 times if Grandma Carol is coming to his party. She had developed. Am I supposed to tell him his grandma said no? I don't want to sound cruel, but you're delusional. The sweet manipulation. Stop acting like everything revolves around you. As always, you're a crazy, controlling old woman, and the others aren't going to pitch in. And you're alone because it's your own damn fault. You know how things are. Crazy. Mark had to get a new car. The kids' school expenses, because it was my own fault. Sophia's tuition. Each word stabbed my soul like an icy with his new job. But you have your savings, drain right? From my face. And anyway, my legs you're not even going to get on the edge of the kitchen table. You'll just be there, relaxing, the world blurred, watching the happy family, as if I were seeing everything through a glass fogged like by the tears that were fighting to escape. I stayed quiet, the only thing I looking out my kitchen window. Lily continued, a woman in the building across the street was watering the plants on her balcony. Is for you to lend me your credit card for the trip to Cancun with my friends. Peaceful. Now that would be useful. For a moment, I envied that solitude that seemed chosen, not imposed. Mom, but please just live out your old age in peace and stop dragging me into your ridiculous plans. So, what do you say? That card, should we give Leo this gift? My voice came out broken, as if it barely were for a whisper. As if it weren't for emergencies, honey. All right,
You know
Carrie,
my Social
I'll make the
Security
transfer
barely
this
covers
morning.
my expenses and...
Oh, Mom, you're the best.
Then use it to
She
pay for a
shouted so
nurse
loudly
because
I
I'm
had to
not
pull the
taking
phone
care
away
of you
from
when
my
you end
ear.
up in some home.
The kids are going to
She
be so
screamed.
excited.
And then the
And
sharp
Mark
click
is
of the
already
phone
asking if
hanging
there's a
up
grill for
echoed
a
in my ear like
barbecue.
a gunshot.
You know how he loves to cook.
I
Mark
stood
loves
there
to
in
cook
my
when
kitchen,
he doesn't have to pay for
the
the hot
phone
dogs.
still pressed to my ear.
And when do we leave?
Trembling from head to toe.
Friday morning.
The coffee
I already
had
booked a
grown
van
cold
so
in
we
my
can all go
hands,
together.
but I felt
It's going to be
nothing but an
amazing,
immense
Mom.
emptiness
Like a
gnawing at
family
me from the
honeymoon.
inside. Honeymoon. My daughter was a real comedian. I hung up the phone and stood there, in my cinnamon-scented kitchen, holding my now cold cup of coffee. Outside, the city was starting to wake up. Buses roared down the boulevard. Street vendors set up their carts. Life went on as usual. But I had a strange feeling in my chest. Photos of
Like when
Lily
you know
from
it's going to
infancy
rain,
to her
but the
current
sky is still
28 years
blue.
adorned every corner.
I went to my bedroom
The drawings
and pulled
she
the
had
small
given
metal
me in
box from
elementary
under my
school were
mattress
still
where I
stuck to
kept
the
my most
refrigerator
important
with worn-out
savings.
magnets. Bills
The
of
blanket I
$50s
had
and
knitted
20s
for
I had
her
scraped
now
together,
covered the sofa
dollar
where
by
we used
dollar,
to snuggle
selling
and
my
watch
pies at the
movies.
corner of 31st Street on weekends. Money that smelled like butter and hope. I counted. $3,850 exactly.
As
All
if
that
fate
love,
had decided
all
that
those
was precisely
sacrifices,
how much it was
all
supposed
those
to hurt.
years working double shifts as a
That
cashier at the
afternoon,
neighborhood
I went to the
Target
bank.
so she could go to
The
college.
young teller who helped
so she
me,
could have
a
nice
very
clothes,
kind girl with
so she would
heart-shaped
never lack
glasses,
for anything.
asked if I was sure
And
about
now
making
I was
such a large
crazy
transfer.
old lady. It's for my family. I vividly
said,
remembered
as
selling
if
my
that
mother's
explained
pearl
everything.
necklace. The only valuable
She
memory I
smiled
had
that
of her
smile young
to pay
people
for
give
Lily's
when they
study
don't
abroad trip to
understand,
London
but
when she was
pretend they
22.
do.
That's so nice. Family is the most important thing.
I
I
walked
remembered
out of
the
the
nights
bank
I
with the
went without
receipt in my
dinner so
hand,
she could have
and a
meat,
strange
the
feeling in my
worn-out shoes
stomach.
I kept wearing for
Like
years
when you
while I
eat too
bought her
much
the
candy
latest
on an
Nikes.
empty
stomach and it tastes sweet.
I remembered every,
But you know you're
"I
going
love
to
you,
regret
Mommy."
it later, she whispered when she
That
was little.
night,
Before bed,
every hug
I
she
sat
gave
in
me
my
when I
favorite
came
armchair.
home tired from work.
The green velvet one
Every
I
time
bought
she
at a
told me
discount
I was the
furniture
best mother
warehouse
in the
out in
world.
Jersey 15 years ago.
I
When
held
had an
an
old
old
photo
photo
from a trip we took to Jones
When had I
Beach.
started to
All
be a
6 of
burden
us.
instead of
My
her
husband
refuge?
Richard, Carrie,
I
Aaron,
sank
and the
into the
3
kitchen
grandkids
chair,
when they were little.
the same one where I had helped
We were
Lily
all
with her
smiling
homework
for
for
real.
years.
They
where
were
we had
all
eaten
hugging
breakfast
me for
together
real.
every morning before
I
she
didn't
left
know
for
that
high
night
school.
would be the last I'd ever
The
sleep,
tears
feeling
finally
like a
found their
beloved
way.
mother, sliding silently down my cheeks as my mind filled with memories that now hurt like open wounds. And
How
I
had I
didn't
gotten
know
here?
that 5 days later,
How had the little
I
girl
would be
who used
lying
to
on
say,
the cold floor of a
"Mommy,
house I paid
when
for.
I grow up, I
while
want to
my
be just
children
like
and
you,"
grandchildren
turned
slept in
into this
comfortable
stranger
beds,
who spoke to me with
dreaming
such
dreams
contempt.
I had bought with my pain.
I
closed my eyes and transported
But that-
myself to that February day in
I'll
2018.
tell you that in the
next part. When Lily showed up at my door,
Friday
sobbing
arrived
her
like a
heart out.
dentist's appointment.
She was
Unavoidable
23 then,
and with
had
a
just
knot in her
graduated
stomach
from
that
college,
keeps you from eating
and her
breakfast
long-term
properly.
boyfriend had left her for
I
a
woke up
younger
at
girl.
5 in the
morning to prepare everything I'd be taking to Hilton Head. She
Not
threw
just my
herself into my
clothes,
arms like
but
she did
also
when
the
she was
gifts for
little.
Leo I'd bought
soaking
with the
my
little
sweater
money
with
I
her
had
tears.
left.
A New York Yankees
Mom,
baseball.
I don't know what
his
I'm going to
favorite
do.
team. And
A
I don't have a
1,000-piece
job.
dinosaur
I don't have
puzzle
money
he
for my
loved so
apartment's
much.
rent.
I
also
nothing.
packed my small,
She
seasoned
sobbed against
cast
my
iron
shoulder.
skillet, the one I
Without a
inherited from my
second's
mother.
hesitation, I took my
Because I
savings
knew
out
in
of
that
the lockbox
fancy house
I kept under
they
my
wouldn't
bed.
have a proper pan to make real cornbread.
I put my blood
$5,000
pressure pills
I had
in
been
a small
saving for
plastic
3
bag,
years by
along
working
with the
extra
sleeping
hours.
pills the doctor
Money I had
prescribed
set
after
aside
Richard
to fix
died.
the leaky roof
The ones
and
I
replace
hardly
the
ever
fridge
use
that barely
because they
stayed
scare
cold.
me.
But which
I
I,
gave
find
it all to
comforting
her.
to have nearby.
Here,
my love, it's yours.
At 7 sharp,
So you can
Mark's
start
van
over,
honked
I told
outside.
her, stroking her brown hair that smelled of the expensive shampoo she always bought. I'll pay you back, Mommy, I swear. As soon as I find a job, everything will change, she promised, wiping her tears with the back of her hand.
She
I
never
peeked through
paid
the
back
window
a
and there
single
they
dollar.
were.
Carrie
Carrie
in
in
a
a
new
new
coral-colored
coral-colored
sundress.
I gently
Mark in a
reminded
polo
her that I
shirt
needed
that
the money
probably
for the
cost
house
more than my
repairs.
monthly
She
utilities.
looked at me with annoyance
The 3
and
kids
said,
glued to their tablets.
Mom,
and
are you
Aaron
seriously
with a
going to
blonde
charge
girl
me
who
for
looked
helping
younger
your
than
own
my daughter?
grandchildren? That's what mothers do. Hurry up, Mom!
I fell silent.
Carrie shouted from downstairs.
As always,
We want to get there
but that
early to
wasn't
make the
all.
most of the day. In 2019,
Make
when
the
she
most
landed
of
her
it.
first job
The
at a
phrase they
marketing
always
agency,
used when it
she
was
came
something I
over
was
one
paying
afternoon, beaming with happiness, with a proposal that made my heart swell.
Mom,
I came
I've
down with
been
my little
invited to a
rolling
seminar in
suitcase,
Miami.
the one I
It's an
bought at a flea
incredible
market 3
opportunity
years
for my
ago that still
career.
looked decent. decent.
But it cost $2,000.
Mark didn't even get out to help
and I
me.
don't have it.
He just popped the trunk
Again,
from inside
without asking
and kept
what
talking
it was
on the
exactly
phone about
for,
some business deal
without
he was
asking
working
for
on.
guarantees.
Carol,
Without even
isn't this
thinking
going to be
twice.
amazing?
I gave
Aaron's
her what she
girlfriend,
asked.
a girl named Brittany
This
who
time,
chewed
I
gum
had to
like
take
it was
out
her
a job,
personal loan
said
from
to
the
me,
bank.
Aaron
Aaron
told
told
me
me
he
you paid
paid
for the
meager
whole
Social
house.
Security
That's so
income for
generous
6
of you,
months.
right? Generous. As
You're
if
the
I had a
best mom in the
choice.
world, she said.
Yes, dear.
Giving me
I
a
replied,
quick kiss on the cheek
squeezing into the
before
very
running off
back
to
seat
pack her
next to the
suitcase.
kids. I'm glad you're
When she
all going to
returned
have a
from
good
Miami,
time. She didn't talk about the
Leo,
seminar. My oldest
instead,
grandson,
she posted
turned
photos
to look at
on
me with those
Instagram
big
from
brown
expensive
eyes,
restaurants,
so much like his
wearing
grandfather
dresses that
Richard's.
cost more than my monthly
Grandma
rent.
Carol,
Showing
did you
off
see
her
the house has
vacation
an
with
infinity
friends in
pool?
five-star hotels.
It looks just like the ones
The
in Hollywood
seminar
movies.
had been a lie.
Yes,
She
my
had
love,
used
it's
my
going
money
to be
to go
beautiful.
party.
And
When
Mom
I
says there's going to be a
confronted her about
piñata
it,
and
she
cake
pretended
and even
not
a
to
live
understand
band for
what
my
I was
birthday.
talking about.
A live band.
Mom, I told
That
you I
was
was
new.
going to Miami for
No one
work.
had mentioned a band
If
to
I
me.
relaxed a little afterward,
Carrie,
what's the problem?
I asked.
You're
leaning
always trying to
forward.
control everything I
band?
do.
Oh,
And
I forgot to tell you.
like the fool I
Mark
was,
knows these guys who play really
apologized.
well.
I
And
told
since
her
we're
she was
already
right,
spending,
that I
we
shouldn't
might as
meddle
well do
in
it
her
right.
affairs.
It's only
Last
$300
year had been
more.
even worse.
$300 more that
Lily
I didn't
arrived
have
on a Sunday night,
but that I would have
with
to
that
find
calculated
somewhere.
smile she had perfected for asking for favors.
She
The
brought a
drive to
bottle
Hilton
of cheap
Head
wine
took
and
8
some
hours.
flowers that she had surely
8
bought
hours
at the
of
gas
listening to
station
Mark
on the corner.
brag about construction
Mommy,
projects
guess
that
what?
never materialized.
I've decided to move out
Carrie
on my
complaining
own.
about how
It's time
expensive
I had
the
my
kids' private
independence,
school was,
she announced,
and
while
Aaron
pouring
telling
the wine
Brittany
into the good
stories about his
glasses,
childhood
the
that
ones I
weren't
saved
true.
for special occasions.
Like the time he claimed he won a swimming
so
competition
thrilled.
at school, when the
My
truth
daughter was
he
finally
couldn't even
going to
swim
fly on her
properly
own
until he was
wings.
15.
I was so proud. And you've already found a place? I asked, feeling a mix of sadness and maternal pride.
Yes,
I stayed quiet.
I found a beautiful
looking out
one
the
in
window
Wicker
at the
Park.
green landscapes
But I
of the
need the
Carolinas,
security deposit and
thinking
the
of
first
all the
couple of
times
months
I had
rent.
made this same journey
She
with my
paused
Richard.
theatrically.
He
He
always
always
drove
drove wine in her
slowly,
glass,
stopped at roadside
It's
stands to buy me
$4,000 in
fresh
total.
peaches, and took
$4,000
pictures of me at
I didn't
scenic
have.
overlooks, even when I told him
$4,000
I
that
was
meant
too
completely
old for that
emptying
sort of
my
thing.
savings account and being
What are you
left without
thinking
the
about,
safety
Grandma?
net that every older
asked
person
Sophia,
needs.
my 10-year-old
Lily,
granddaughter.
honey, that amount?
About your grandpa.
It's a lot of money.
I said, stroking her hair. He would have loved this trip. I don't know if I can.
My dad says Grandpa Rick
Mom?
was super cheap,
She interrupted.
Leo blurted
her
out
tone
without
changing
looking
up from his
completely.
tablet.
That's
I
why
thought
he
you'd
never
be
took us
happy
to nice
see me
places
become
like this.
independent. It felt
But
like
I
a
see
slap
you'd
in the
rather
face.
keep me here.
Mark had been
Controlling me,
bad-mouthing my
like
Richard
you
in front of
always
the
have.
children.
Your
Your
grandpa
manipulation
wasn't
was
cheap,
so
my love.
subtle, I said,
So
trying to
perfect
keep my voice
that I didn't
calm.
realize it until
He was a
much
hard
later.
worker.
She
Every
made me
dollar
feel
he
guilty
earned was
with
not
his
being
own
able
two
to give her
hands,
everything she
selling
asked
at the
for,
market,
as if
fixing
it were my
whatever broke in the
obligation to
house.
finance her new life, while I became increasingly lonely and poorer.
And
In
he
the
did take
end,
us to nice
I
places,
got the money by
just
selling
different
the
ones.
engagement ring her father
Like
had
where?
given me. The
Like
only
to Bear
thing I
Mountain
kept
for
from that
picnics,
young love that had
or to
vanished
Jones
when Lily
Beach,
was just a
where
baby.
we'd rent a little boat and sing
a ring
Frank
that
Sinatra
held
songs while we ate
incalculable
the sandwiches
sentimental
I'd
value
made.
for me, but
Leo
that she
looked
didn't
at me
even
with
know
a face that
existed.
screamed,
How boring.
"You're the best, Mom!"
And went back to his video
She shouted
game.
from the door as she left with
In
the
that
check in her
moment,
hand.
I understood something
I promise
terrible.
this is an investment in our
My own
future.
grandchildren no
You'll
longer
see.
knew the difference
Everything
between
is
love
going to
and money.
change.
That was the last time she had truly hugged me.
Over
To
the
them,
following
a grandmother
months,
who
our
took them to
conversations
expensive
dwindled to
places
sporadic
was better
calls
than
where
a
she would
grandfather who took
superficially
them to
tell me about
places
her
where
new
you had
life.
to use your imagination.
Her job was going well.
She had met
We
interesting
arrived at the
people.
house
She was
around
dating
3
a
in the
guy.
afternoon.
But she never
And I
invited
have
me
to
to see her
admit,
new home.
it was stunning.
She never included me in her plans.
like a palace,
She never
with
mentioned
huge
paying
windows
me back.
facing the sea.
And when I
A pool
timidly
that seemed to
suggested
melt
we
into
could
the
meet for
horizon,
lunch or go to the
and
movies
palm
like we
trees
used
that
to,
swayed as if
she
they were
always had a
waving
perfect
hello.
excuse. The air
Oh,
smelled
Mom,
of salt
I'm super
and freedom.
swamped with work.
The kids ran straight for the pool. Carrie
This
went to
weekend
the
I
wet
have
bar to
plans
make
with the
herself a
girls.
margarita.
I'm
Mark
really
started
tired.
exploring the
I need
house
to
as if he
rest.
owned it. Aaron
Little
and
by
Brittany
little,
began taking
I had
pictures
become
for
a
their
nuisance
social
in the
media,
life of the person
posing
for
as if
whom
they
I
were
had
millionaires on
sacrificed
vacation.
absolutely
And I was left
everything.
standing at the entrance,
There,
sitting
suitcase
in my
in
hand,
hand, with the
waiting
phone
for
still
someone
in
to
my
tell me
hand
where I
and
would
the
sleep.
echo
Of her cruel words ringing in my ears, I began to understand the terrible truth. I wasn't a mother. I was an ATM. I wasn't a confidant. I was a resource. I wasn't her family.
An
I was
hour
her
later,
moral obligation.
after everyone had settled
that
in,
inconvenient
chosen
person
their
you have to
rooms,
put up with
and
because
unpacked as
society
if they
says
were
you
lords
must
of the
respect your
manor.
parents. Carrie approached
I looked
me with that
around
awkward
and,
smile she
for the
put on
first
when she
time,
had bad news.
saw my home with new eyes.
Hey, Mom.
So
The
we checked
walls
out
had
the
needed a
rooms,
coat of
and
paint
they're
for
amazing.
years.
The
But I
master
never
has
had
a
the money
jacuzzi,
because I was
and the
always
other two
giving
have
it to
ocean
Lily.
views.
use.
But
The
you know,
refrigerator made strange
since you didn't
noises
bring a
and
partner
sometimes
and the
shut
kids
off
need
on
their
its own,
space,
but I
we thought
kept
you could stay in
postponing
the
its
living
repair
room.
because my daughter's needs had
The
always
living
been more
room.
urgent than
The
mine.
floor.
My
In the
clothes
living
were
room?
old and faded. But
Yeah,
why buy
look, it has
something
a
new
super
if no
comfy
one saw
couch and
me?
it's cool with
if
the
no one
AC.
valued me?
Besides, you barely sleep
I had
anyway,
become a
right?
shadow of myself.
At your age, you don't
a
need
woman
as
who
much
existed
rest.
solely to meet the
my
demands of
age.
someone who saw me as an annoyance.
As if being 62
the worst
had
discovery
turned me
came
into
when
a
I
piece of
opened my
furniture
phone
that
and reviewed
required
our
no
conversations
maintenance.
from the last few months.
But Carrie,
Chat after chat,
Oh,
message
Mom,
after message.
don't be dramatic.
The same dynamic
It's just for
repeated
a
itself
week.
over and over.
And think about it.
She asking,
The important
me
thing
giving.
is that we're all together.
She demanding,
right?
me apologizing.
All together.
She
Them in
judging
king-size
me,
beds
me
with ocean
justifying
views,
my limitations,
and me on a couch in the living room.
When was the
lulled
last
to
time
sleep
she
by
had
the
asked
hum
me
of the
how I was?
refrigerator? And where
when
will
was
I
the
put my
last time
clothes?
she had worried about my health?
There's a small
my
closet over there
loneliness,
where they keep
my
the
dreams.
beach towels. You can use that.
When was the last time she
A
treated
towel
me like a
closet.
person and
for the
not
woman
a
who paid
disposable
nearly
resource?
$4,000?
I couldn't remember.
That night, while
And
everyone
that
dined on
realization
lobster
broke
and
my
shrimp,
heart in a
Mark had
way
ordered
no
from an
insult
expensive
ever
restaurant.
could.
I sat on my
The
couch
following
bed with a
days
ham
passed in a
sandwich I'd
strange
made in the
haze,
kitchen.
as if I were living someone else's life.
I
could
woke
hear
up
them
each
laughing,
morning hoping it had
making
all been a
toasts
nightmare.
to
The
that
best
Lily
Martin
Martin
family vacation
apologize,
ever.
that she would tell me it
But
was
no
all a
one toasted me.
misunderstanding.
No one said,
But my phone remained
"Thank you, Carol,
silent,
for making this possible."
mocking my naivety
No
from
one
the
wondered if I
nightstand.
was comfortable, if I was
On
hungry,
Wednesday afternoon,
if I needed anything.
while organizing my papers
it was as
to
if
pay
I
the
had paid
monthly
for the
bills,
privilege of being
I
invisible.
found something that made me tremble.
Lying on the living
Our
room
last
couch that
WhatsApp
night,
conversation
using
from
my
3
old
weeks
Afghan
ago.
as a blanket.
I had texted
I
her
listened
to
to
tell
the
her
ocean
I'd had
through
a
the
doctor's
windows.
appointment because I'd been having some worrying dizzy spells.
A
Honey,
sound that
I
should
went
have
to the
been
doctor
relaxing,
today,
but
he
to
said my
me,
blood
it
pressure
sounded
is
very
sad,
high and I
like
need
a
to get some
giant
tests done.
unstoppable cry.
I'm a little scared. For the
Could
first
you come
time
with
in
me
my
next
life,
week?
I understood what
Lily's
it meant to
reply
be
arrived
lonely in a
6 hours
crowd.
later. And that,
Okay,
believe
take
me,
care.
hurts more than
3
being
words.
truly alone.
For her mother's health, for my fears.
On the second day,
for my need
I
for
woke up with
company
a
at a
stiff neck
vulnerable
and
moment.
a shooting pain in my back that ran from my waist to my shoulder.
The
But I
living room
remembered with
couch had
crystal
not been
clarity that
designed
on that
for a
same
woman
day,
my age to sleep
just an
on for
hour
7
after my
consecutive
message,
nights,
she had
But
posted
there
an
I was,
Instagram story
folding
showing
myself
off her new
like an
manicure
accordion to fit
with
into
the
a
caption,
space
"My own children deemed
self-care
sufficient
is
for
the
me."
best care.
It was
She
6
had
in the
time to
morning,
get her nails
and
done,
the house was
to
silent.
photograph them,
to
I
write
got up
motivational
slowly,
phrases,
trying not to make a sound
but she didn't
with my
have time to
bones,
ask her
which
mother how
creaked
she
like
felt
old
after a
floorboards.
worrying doctor's appointment.
Outside,
The ocean looked calm, a shade of blue that reminded me of my Richard's eyes when he told me he loved me. I
the
kept
irony
scrolling
of
through
being
our
in paradise and
conversations
feeling
with a
like
mix
I
of
was in hell.
fascination and horror.
I went to the
like
kitchen
someone
to
who
make
can't
myself
look away
some
from a
coffee,
car crash,
but I was in for a surprise.
Every exchange showed a
There
pattern
was
I had
none.
been refusing to see
The
for
automatic
years.
coffee maker was there.
In January,
shiny and
when
expensive,
I texted her
but
excitedly
empty.
because I'd gotten a small
I
increase
searched
in
the
my Social
cabinets and
Security
only found
benefits.
pods for one of those
Lily,
fancy
guess
machines
what?
I didn't know how
My
to use.
benefits went up by $50
In the
a
fridge,
month.
there was almond
It's
milk,
not much,
organic
but now
Greek
I can afford
yogurt,
to go to the
and
physical
green juice
therapist
that
for my
cost more
back.
than my food
I'm so
for
happy.
3 days.
Her response: "That's great.
Hey,
But regular
can you
ground
Venmo
coffee,
me some money?
the kind that
I
smells
have
like
to pay
home,
the electric bill
was
and I
nowhere to be
forgot.
found. Not a word
Morning,
of
Carol.
congratulations.
Mark appeared in the
Not
kitchen,
a question about my
already
back.
in his designer
Just
swim
a hand
trunks,
held out,
wearing a watch
asking
that
for money
shone
I
brighter
hadn't
than
even
the sun.
received yet.
Have you had
In
breakfast yet?
December, when I
Not
told
yet.
her I had
I can't
fallen
find
on the
any
building's
regular
front
coffee.
steps and hurt my knee.
Oh, we drink espresso.
Honey,
Carrie
I fell
brought her
yesterday
special
coming down the
machine,
stairs,
but I think there
my
are some
knee
tea
hurts a
bags in
lot
there.
and I can barely walk.
Tea.
The doorman
As if
helped me
tea
get
could
upstairs.
replace
the sacred ritual
no,
of my
Mom.
morning coffee.
Be more careful.
Hey,
And where
did
is
you
this
see I was
machine?
tagged in some
In the
photos
master
from my
bedroom.
company's Christmas party?
But it's kind of
I
complicated
looked
to
so
use.
good. I'll just tell
Not
Carrie
one
to make you
question
one
about
when she
how I
wakes
was
up.
feeling.
When
Not
she
an
wakes
offer to
up.
come see me.
In the meantime,
Not even a
I
suggestion
would go
to
without
see
my
a
coffee
doctor.
until my daughter felt
Just
like
an
being
immediate
generous to the
pivot
woman
back to
who paid for
herself.
her vacation. In October,
Don't
when I
worry about
texted
it.
her that I was
I told
feeling
him,
very lonely
"Tea is
and
fine."
missed our talks, Mark poured himself
Lily,
a glass of
my
$8
love,
green juice and went out
I
to
know
the
you're
terrace
busy
to check
with your
his
new
phone.
life.
But I wish we could talk more often. I feel very alone in this apartment sometimes. Mom, don't be so dramatic.
He
You need
didn't
to make
even
friends,
ask if I had slept
sign up
well
for
or if I
activities.
needed anything.
You can't depend on
To
me
him,
for everything.
I was just part of the house's
Dramatic?
furniture.
For missing my only daughter.
An hour later,
For needing
everyone
human
started
connection
coming
after
downstairs.
dedicating my entire
First the
life to
kids,
raising her.
running straight to the pool without
Every
a word
message
to
I
me.
reread was like
Then
a
Aaron
slap
and
in
Brittany,
the face from the past.
she in a bikini
funny that
How
left
had I been
very
so
little to
blind?
the imagination.
How had I interpreted
and he
what
showing
was
off the
clearly
view as if he
absolute
owned the
indifference
place?
to my well-being as
Carrie didn't
independent
appear until
character.
9. Wearing
On
a pink
Thursday,
silk
I
robe
decided
and
to run
feathered
a
slippers,
test.
like
A
a queen
horrible
descending
but
to inspect her
necessary
subjects.
I
Good
sent her a
morning,
made-up
beautiful
message.
family, she said in
Lily,
that sing-song
I'm at the
voice
hospital.
she used when she
I
wanted
fainted
to
on the
project
street
happiness.
and an ambulance brought me here.
How did
I'm
everyone
scared.
sleep?
I waited.
Everyone
1
answered
hour,
with
2
amazing,
hours,
incredible,
3 hours.
like a
Finally,
5-star
at
hotel.
11 p.m., she responded.
No one asked me,
Are you okay?
Mom,
I can't come
can
now.
you make breakfast?
I have an important
Carrie
work dinner
said as she
tomorrow
poured
and I
her
need to
espresso.
rest.
We brought
A work
pancake
dinner
mix.
was more important
The kids
than her
love
mother
yours.
in the hospital.
Of course.
I wrote back immediately.
The official cook for the vacation
It
I
was a
paid
lie.
for. I just wanted to see if you cared about me.
Her
Does everyone
response
want
came like a
pancakes?
dagger.
Yes,
Mom,
and
that's
if you could also
psychological
make some steak
manipulation.
and eggs for Mark,
That's
he's
really
craving
messed
it.
up of you.
And Brittany's
Don't
on a
ever
diet.
do that to me
so
again.
just fruit and yogurt for her. Psychological manipulation.
5 different breakfasts.
I, who had lied
for the
once
woman
in my
who slept
life
on
to
the
test
couch,
her love,
as I
was the
mixed the
manipulator.
pancake batter in the kitchen
But she,
that smelled of
who
expensive
had lied
floor
about
cleaner,
seminars, I listened
about
to the
financial
laughter coming
needs,
from the pool,
about
her affection for years, was the victim. I couldn't sleep that night.
Mark
I stayed
had put
awake
on
until
classic
dawn,
rock at full
pacing
volume.
my small apartment
Aaron was
like a
teaching
lost
Brittany how to
soul,
float,
seeing with
and
new
Carrie was
eyes
taking
every
pictures of
corner
everything
that
to
spoke
show
of my
off on
sacrifice
Facebook.
and her ingratitude.
Sophia, my
The
granddaughter,
bookshelf
ran
where
in,
I kept all her
soaking
books
wet.
from school and college.
Grandma Carol,
books I
are
had
my
bought
pancakes
one by
ready
one.
yet?
I'm
so
sometimes
hungry.
choosing between eating meat
Almost,
or
my
buying
love.
her the textbook
Is the
she
pool
needed.
nice?
Yeah,
The wall
it's super
where her
warm.
diploma's hung.
My dad says
It's
academic
heated.
achievements
That it
I
costs
had
a lot of
financed
money to
by
keep it
working
like
double
that.
shifts at the supermarket.
Money that came out of my
coming
pocket,
home with
but
swollen
that her
feet
dad was
and
taking
an aching
credit
back.
for.
The
Aren't you going
closet
to
in
get
my
in,
bedroom
Grandma?
where I still kept
A
the
little
clothes
later,
she had left
sweetie.
behind
Right
when
now
she
I'm
moved
making
out.
breakfast.
Expensive
Why are
clothes
you
I
always
had
in the
given her for
kitchen?
her birthdays
My mom
while I
says you
continued
like to
to wear
cook.
the same clothes
I
for
like to
years.
cook.
As if it were
Her
a hobby
designer
and not an
dresses hung
obligation
there
no
like
one else
ghosts
wanted to
of a
take
daughter
on.
who perhaps had never
I do
truly
like
existed.
but I also
At
like
least
being
not
with
the
you
loving,
all.
grateful daughter
But
I
you
thought I
can't
had
be
been
with us
raising.
if you're cooking. Out of the mouths of babes comes the truth. I was there to serve them, not to enjoy with them.
On
Breakfast
Friday
was
morning,
served on the
as I
terrace
drank my
overlooking
coffee
the
alone
ocean
at the kitchen table,
Everyone sat
I
in the
realized
stylish
something
wicker chairs,
terrifying.
commenting on
I
how
couldn't remember
delicious
the
everything
last time
was,
Lily had given me
how
a gift.
perfect the view was.
Not for my birthday.
How brilliant
not
the
for
idea to
Christmas,
come here had
not
been.
for Mother's Day.
I sat in
She
a
always
corner
had perfect
in the only
excuses.
remaining chair,
She
which
was
faced
broke,
away from
she
the
had been
sea.
too busy.
From
She had
there,
forgotten
I could
but would
only
make
see
it
the
up to me
white wall
later.
of the house and a
Meanwhile,
planter with
I
flowers
had never
that were
forgotten
starting to
a
wilt.
single important date in her life.
Carol, these pancakes are amazing, Brittany told me.
Aaron
Even when
said
money
you
was
were a good
tight, I
cook,
always found a way
but
to
I
buy
didn't
her
know how
something
good.
special to make her
Thank
feel
you, dear.
loved and celebrated.
Did you teach
But
yourself?
when was the last
or did you
time
go to
she had done
culinary school?
anything? Anything
My
at
mother
all
taught me.
to make me feel
And life
loved.
did too.
The answer hit me like a
Life?
sledgehammer. Never.
When you have to stretch
At
$1
least
and
not
feed a
since she
family,
had become an adult.
you learn to cook with what you have.
I then remembered a
There was an
conversation we had
uncomfortable
the
silence.
previous year when
As
I turned
always,
56. Whenever I mentioned the
spent the day
reality of my
completely
life,
alone.
waiting for a call,
Anyway, Mom,
a text,
Carrie
a visit,
said,
quickly changing
nothing
the
came.
subject. I forgot to tell you. Some
The
of
next
Mark's
day,
friends are
when
coming
I
over
finally
this afternoon.
texted her to say
They'll
I
be
had
here
been
around
very
6
sad
for
to
dinner.
spend my birthday
More
in solitude
people.
without
Her
consulting
response had been chilling.
How many?
Mom,
About 8
birthdays
people.
are for kids.
But don't worry,
You're an adult.
Mark is
You don't
ordering
need
food
to be
from a
celebrated.
restaurant.
You'll
Besides,
just have to make some
if
appetizers.
you wanted to celebrate,
just
you
make
could have organized
appetizers.
something yourself.
For 8 people I didn't know, in the house I paid for a dinner party I was never consulted about. And where are they going to sleep? They're not sleeping here. They're just
Organize
coming
my
for
own
dinner and then
birthday?
leaving. With whom? Thank goodness.
With the friends I had lost
because there
over
were no more
years of
places for
dedicating
people to
myself
sleep
exclusively to
unless
her?
they put me in the bathroom.
With the family I barely had because I
that
had moved to
afternoon,
Chicago
while everyone
to give her
sunbathed
better
and swam in the
educational
pool,
opportunities,
I was in the kitchen
I
preparing
had been left alone in the
guacamole,
world
salsa,
for her.
and cheese quesadillas for
And
Mark's
now
guests.
she was throwing that
My
loneliness
hands
in
were
my
swollen
face
from
as
the
if it
heat
were
of the
my
stove,
fault,
and I had an
as if
oil
it had been a
stain on my
selfish
only
choice
nice
instead of a
blouse.
maternal sacrifice.
On
Through
Saturday,
the kitchen window,
sitting on a bench
I watched
in the
my
park
children
on
and
Webster
grandchildren
Avenue,
enjoying
where
the
I used to
vacation
take
I
her to
paid
play
for.
when she was little. Mark was
I
floating
watched
on
other
a giant
mothers with their young
inflatable
children.
flamingo drinking a
I
beer.
saw them pushing swings,
Carrie was reading a gossip
wiping
magazine
noses,
under an umbrella,
comforting tears,
wearing sunglasses
sharing
that cost
snacks.
more than my weekly
I
groceries.
saw all that unconditional
Aaron
love
was taking
I had given
pictures
for
of Brittany
years,
posing like an
and I wondered
Instagram
if
model.
any of those mothers would
and
end
the
up
kids.
like me.
The kids
Alone,
were playing Marco Polo in the
despised,
pool, treated
screaming
like a
with joy.
nuisance by the person who had been the center of their universe. One
For
of
a
the
moment,
mothers,
I
a woman
wondered
my
what would
age who
happen
seemed
if
to be
I
a
put on my
grandmother,
swimsuit
sat
and got
down
in the
next
pool
to me
too.
while her granddaughter
If I
played on the
said,
swings.
"That's enough cooking.
Are you
Now
here
I
to
wanna
see the
have fun."
grandkids too? She
But I knew
asked
the
with a
answer.
kind smile.
Someone had to make the
No.
food.
Someone
I
had to
replied
clean
with a
the
sadness
dishes.
I couldn't hide.
Someone had to be the maid of the
Just
family vacation. Remembering
and
when
that
my
someone
daughter
was
was little.
always me.
Does she live far?
At 6,
She asked with
Mark's
genuine
friends
curiosity. No, she lives here in Chicago. But I didn't know how to continue without bursting into tears. Men
The woman
his age
seemed
to
to
understand
understand
without
polo
needing an
shirts,
explanation, accompanied by women
She
who could have
placed
been
her
their
wrinkled
daughters,
hand on mine,
all
and
made
said
up
something
as if
that
they were
would
going
stay
to
with
a
me for
prom.
days.
Sometimes, dear,
I'd like you to meet my
love
friends.
isn't enough, Mark said with that
Sometimes we
voice
give
he
so
used when he
much
wanted
that we
to
teach
impress
our children
people.
how to take
instead
They're
of
the
how
ones
to
who
give.
recommended this house.
And when they realize they can live without us,
So
but we
Mark
can't
hadn't
live
even
without
found the
them.
house.
The power
He
is
had just
imbalanced
taken the
forever.
credit as if it were his discovery.
Her words were a painful
Dinner
epiphany.
was served on the terrace.
I didn't sit down to eat.
I
I
had
had
raised
raised
a
a daughter
kitchen,
who had learned
bringing
to take
plates
without
back
giving,
and forth,
to receive
serving
without
drinks,
thanking,
clearing away
to
trash,
exist without
like a
considering the
waitress at my
emotional
own
cost her
party.
indifference had on the
One of
person who
Mark's
had raised
friends,
her. A heavy-set man
and
with
the
a
worst part
mustache
was
named
that,
Rod,
deep in my
stopped
heart,
me as I
a
brought
part
him
of me
another
was
beer,
still hoping she would change.
Hey, ma'am,
That one day
are
she
you
would
Mark's
wake
mother?
up and realize what she had
I'm
in
Carrie's
me.
mother, I corrected him. Ah, the mother-in-law. Well, Mark's a lucky guy, huh? Not all mothers-in-law are so helpful. As if it were my natural job to be everyone's servant. I
Thank
was
you,
still clinging
I
to the
said,
fantasy that
because
the
I couldn't
sweet,
think of anything
affectionate
else
little
to
girl
say.
she once was
And
still
it
existed
was real
somewhere
nice of you
inside
to
the
rent this
cold,
house for
selfish
everyone.
woman she had
It's
become.
fantastic.
On
Nice
Sunday
of me to
morning,
rent it.
I woke up
He knew
with a
who had
strange
paid,
sense of
but he
determination.
addressed me as if I were the
For the
hired
first
help.
time in weeks,
That
I didn't
night,
get up thinking
after
about
everyone
Lily,
had left,
about
and
what
the
I could
family
do
had
to
retired
repair
to
our
their
relationship,
comfortable,
about
air-conditioned
how I could
bedrooms with
prove I
ocean
deserved her
views.
love.
I was left
Instead,
to clean up the terrace.
I thought about myself, about what I wanted, about what I deserved. I
Dirty
decided to
plates,
do something I
used
hadn't done in
napkins,
years.
empty beer
Go
bottles,
to the Maxwell
and
Street Market
leftover
alone.
food that the seagulls had already
We used to
started
go on
pick at.
Sundays when Lily was little.
It was 2
It
in
was
the
our
morning
tradition.
when I finished cleaning.
We would wander
My
from
feet
stall to
ached,
stall,
my
buy
hands
hot
burned
dogs,
from washing
look for
so
hidden
many
treasures
dishes,
among antiques
and
and
I had that
secondhand
horrible
clothes.
feeling in my chest
But when she
of
became
someone
a
who knows
teenager,
they're being
she
used,
started saying
but
the
can't
market
find
was
the words to
tacky
defend
and
themselves.
for poor people.
So I
sat
sat down
down
on
to
my
avoid
couch bed
making
and
her
looked out at the
uncomfortable.
ocean, which was black under the moon.
An
Now,
ocean that should have
walking
brought
through
me
the
peace,
bustling market,
but only reminded
breathing in
me
the
of how
fresh
alone
Chicago
I
morning
was.
air,
In
and
the
listening
midst of
to the
all these
chatter of the
people who were
vendors,
supposed to love
I
me,
realized how much I had
for the
missed
first
this
time
part
in
of
my
myself.
life, I wondered
The
if it was
woman I
really
was
worth it
before
to
I
keep
became
paying for
solely
affection that never
Lily's
arrived.
mom.
I
The
was
fourth
admiring
day was
some
Leo's
vintage earrings
birthday.
at a stall when my
My
phone
grandson
rang.
was turning 8,
My heart raced
and I had
when I saw
planned for it
Lily's
to be
name on the
special.
screen. Not
For a
just for
moment,
him,
that
but because I
foolish
needed
hope
to
I had been
believe that
trying
I
to
could
bury
still
for
make
days
someone in this
bloomed
family
again.
happy. Maybe she had realized how cruel she had been.
I
Maybe
woke
she
up
had
at 5 in the
reflected and
morning
wanted
with
to
my body in
apologize.
pieces.
Hello?
I had now spent
I
4
answered,
nights sleeping
trying
on
to
that
sound
couch,
casual.
which had become
Mom,
my personal
I
torture
need to talk
device.
to you. I had a
Her
pain in
voice
my
sounded
shoulder
different,
that shot down to
softer.
my wrist.
But
And
there
when
was
I got up to
something
go to the
calculated in her
bathroom,
tone
I
that
nearly
put me on
fell
alert.
because my left leg was numb.
I'm listening, honey.
But it was my grandson's birthday.
Look, I've
and
been thinking
grandmothers
about
don't
what
complain
happened on
Tuesdays.
Tuesday.
Maybe I was a little hard on you. She paused, and I interpreted it as remorse. I know I get stressed with work and everything. My heart started beating faster. I
Was
went
it
to the
possible
kitchen
she
and
was
took out all the
apologizing?
ingredients I had hidden
That she
in my
recognized how
suitcase.
much she had hurt me?
Flour, eggs,
Lily,
sugar, vanilla,
and
I've
the
been
special
thinking
baking
about that
powder
trip
I
you
bought
mentioned
because I
knew those
to Palm
fancy
Springs,
houses
right?
wouldn't have anything
She
for making a
continued,
real cake
interrupting
from
me
scratch.
gently.
I
Maybe
had
it's
also
not
brought
such a bad
candles,
idea after
the kind
all.
that don't cost $5
The illusion
a piece
washed
like
over
the
me
ones they
again
sell
like a
in resort
warm
gift
wave.
shops. My daughter
I
had come
started
to her
mixing the
senses.
batter for the chocolate
She
cake
wanted to
Leo
spend
had
time
asked
with
for
me.
a month ago.
She wanted to celebrate my birthday together.
Really?
Grandma Carol,
You'd like to
he had
come with
said over the
me?
phone.
I asked,
For my birthday,
feeling hope
can
make
you
my
make me
voice
a chocolate
tremble.
cake like the one you
Yeah,
made for Sophia?
I think it could be fun.
but bigger. But I have one
Of course,
tiny
my love.
condition. Bigger.
Of course.
It
There
was
were always
6:30 when Mark
conditions
came
with
down to
Lily.
the kitchen.
But at that
He looked
moment,
surprised to see
I was
me
so
there,
desperate
as
to
if
get
he
my
had
daughter
forgotten
back
I that I would have
existed.
agreed to anything. Morning, Carol.
Tell
What
me,
are
my
you doing
love.
up so early?
Whatever you need.
Making Leo's cake.
Well,
it turns out my
wouldn't it have
friends
been
and I had
easier to
planned
order
that
one
trip
from
to
a
Cancun
bakery
for the
here?
same weekend.
I'm sure they make prettier
cakes.
the one I told you about.
Prettier. And
As if
now I
cakes
don't know
were
what
only
to
made
do
to be
because I
looked
don't
at
want to
and not
bail
to
on
taste
them.
like love.
But I also want to be
Leo
with you
likes
for
my
your
cakes.
birthday.
A knot
okay.
formed in my stomach.
Hey, do you mind
I
if
knew
I
that
use the
tone.
coffee machine? I had
I
heard
need
it
my
1,000
espresso
times
before my
before when
workout.
she wanted
He
something from
needed
me.
his espresso.
And what do you propose? In the
I
kitchen where
asked,
I had been
although
working
I
for an hour
already
and a
sensed
half,
where this was
where I
going.
was making the cake for
Well,
his son.
I thought maybe you could
Mark
lend me the
needed
credit
his
card for the
espresso
Cancun
and
trip.
didn't even think to
And
offer
then,
me a cup.
when I get back, we could do
Of
our
course,
trip to Palm
go ahead.
Springs.
Mark made his coffee with that complicated machine that sounded like an airplane taking off. off.
The
That
aroma
way,
filled the
we
kitchen,
both win.
and for a moment, I
The
was so
world stopped
envious that
around
my
me.
eyes welled up
The
with
sounds of the
tears.
market fell silent.
4 days without a decent
People
cup
kept
of coffee,
walking, but I stood
and there
frozen
he was,
in the middle of the
sipping his
crowd,
double espresso
holding the phone
as if it were
a
a normal
bomb
thing in the
about to
world.
explode.
You know
You
what,
want me to pay
Carol?
for a trip with your
I
friends
hired a
instead
cover
of
band for the
celebrating my
party.
birthday with me?
They'll be here
I
around
asked,
3.
with a calmness
A
I didn't know
band?
I possessed.
Yeah, some really good
It's
guys.
not like that,
They
Mom.
play all the classics.
Don't be so
The
dramatic.
Beatles, the Eagles.
It would be like an
Springsteen.
investment in our relationship.
Leo's gonna love it.
Leo? Leo was 8 years old. What he knew
relax,
about Bruce
clear my
Springsteen was
head,
what I had sung to him as a
and
baby.
then I can fully enjoy our time together.
How much is that going to cost?
The word investment
Don't worry about
echoed
it.
in my head
It's all
like
taken
a
care
slap.
of.
An
It's all
investment.
taken care of.
That's what I
With
was
my
to
money,
her.
of course.
A source of
But Mark
funding
spoke
for
as
her
if he were the
happiness.
one footing the bill for
And
everything.
what if I don't have the money to
The
lend
cake
you?
came out
I
perfectly.
asked.
Though
3
I knew
layers,
the answer.
with a chocolate frosting
Oh,
that took me
Mom,
2 hours
you
to make by
always have
hand
money
because
saved
there was
for
no electric
emergencies.
mixer. And this is a family emergency, isn't it? The emergency of our relationship. There it was. The perfect manipulation. I
Turning my
decorated it with the
refusal
candles
into the
I had
problem,
brought and wrote
making
"Happy
my lack of
Birthday, Leo,"
resources the
with a
obstacle
tube of
to
pink
our
icing I bought at a
reconciliation.
party store before the trip.
Lily, I booked that
By the
trip
time I
thinking about
finished, it was
spending time
11 in
with
the
you,
morning.
about celebrating
my
my
hands were
birthday
stained
together.
with chocolate.
I don't
My
understand
back
why.
ached from bending over the kitchen
Look,
counter,
Mom,
and my blouse
she
was covered in
interrupted,
flour.
her voice
But the
changing
cake
completely,
looked beautiful,
returning to that
It
familiar
looked like it was made with
coldness.
love. Either you help
Wow,
me with
Grandma
this,
Carol,
or we just don't go
Leo
anywhere.
appeared in the kitchen.
I have
and his
my
eyes
own
lit
life,
up, my own plans, my friends. I can't always be available for your last-minute whims.
That's
Last-minute
awesome.
whims?
Is it all for
A
me?
trip I had planned for
All
months.
for you, my love.
A birthday gift I had
Can
been
I have some
excited
now?
about for weeks.
Not until
Was now
after
a
lunch.
last-minute
But you
whim.
can lick the frosting spoon.
But Lily,
Leo
it's
licked
my
the
birthday,
spoon with that pure happiness
and I'm giving
that
you
only
the
children
chance to
have.
celebrate it with me
And
later.
for a moment, I felt
But
like
if
it
you're
had
going
all
to
been
be
worth
selfish
it.
and only think
All the
about what
back
you
pain,
want,
all the
without
exhaustion,
considering that I
all
had
the
needs
humiliation,
too,
for that
selfish.
smile on my grandson's face,
I
who
would
had
have made
sacrificed
100 more
everything for her,
cakes, was selfish
but
for
my
wanting to
happiness
celebrate
was
my birthday
short-lived.
with my daughter.
Carrie
In that
came
moment,
down an hour
something
later,
inside me
already
broke.
dressed for the party in
It
a
wasn't
new dress
dramatic.
that probably
It
cost
wasn't
more than my
explosive.
rent. It was like
Oh,
when a
Mom,
thread you've been
you made a
stretching for
cake.
too long finally
Mark already
snaps.
ordered one from a bakery
Silent,
here.
It's
Definitive,
3 tiers with fondant
irreversible.
and little superhero figures.
You know what,
It
Lily?
looks super professional.
You're right. My heart
I am
sank to the
selfish,
floor. I said with a
But Leo
tranquility
asked
that
me to make
surprised
him a
me.
chocolate one.
I'm so selfish
Yeah,
that for
but
28
you know
years,
how kids are.
I've thought more
They change
about
their
your
minds.
happiness than my own.
And this other one is much
I'm
prettier
so
for the
selfish
pictures.
that I've worked double shifts to pay for your education, your clothes, your trips, your whims. It
I'm
comes
so
with
selfish
LED
that I've
lights
sold
and
my few
everything.
valuables to give you money every time
LED
you've needed
lights.
it. My cake,
Mom,
made with love,
don't be so dramatic.
didn't have LED lights.
I'm not finished.
And what do I do with this
continued,
one?
Feeling
I don't
a
know,
strength
cut
I
it up
hadn't known
and
in
put it out as
years.
an extra dessert.
I'm
or
so
save it for
selfish
tomorrow.
that I've spent my last 3
An
extra
birthdays
dessert.
alone because you were
4
too
hours
busy
of
to
work
call me.
turned into an extra
I'm
dessert.
so selfish that when I fell
The
and
party
hurt my
started
knee,
at 2 in the
you
afternoon.
didn't even bother to ask how I was. Here you go again with your guilt trips. They're not guilt trips, Lily. They're facts. And the
They had
fact
transformed
is,
the terrace into
I am
a
not
party
lending
hall
you my
with
credit
metallic
card.
balloons.
And the fact
A long
is,
table filled
I
with
am going to
catered
Palm
food.
Springs alone.
And yes,
And
the
the fact is,
$3,000 bakery
if that
cake
seems
that looked like
selfish
it
to you,
belonged on a TV
then
show.
that's what I am.
The cover band arrived.
The silence on the other
5
end
men
was
in
deafening.
matching Hawaiian shirts.
I could hear her
with
breathing,
guitars that
feel
glinted
her
in the
shock.
sun. They
I had
sang
never
Happy
said no to
Birthday,
her.
and then
I had never
launched
stood
into
up to her
Born
like
to
this.
Run, while Mark
Are
filmed
you
everything on
seriously
his
doing
phone,
this to me?
directing the
She
scene as
finally
if he were the
asked,
one who
her
had
voice
organized it
dripping
all.
with a mix of disbelief and manipulation. I'm not doing anything to you, Lily. I am
Happy
simply
birthday,
choosing to do
champ,
something for
Mark yelled
myself
to Leo
for the
as the
first
band
time
played.
in years.
Your dad came
Fine.
through for you, didn't
She
he?
finally exploded.
Your dad came
Fine,
through for
Mom.
you. Go
Mark
on your
taking
old lady
credit for the
trip by
party that
yourself.
came out of my savings.
But don't come calling me
More
later
guests
complaining
arrived.
that you're lonely.
Entire
because
families
you've
I
earned
didn't
that
know.
loneliness
Parents
all by
of Leo's
yourself.
school friends and
She
neighbors
hung
of
up.
Carrie's who had heard about the
I
party
stood
on
there
Facebook.
in the middle of the Maxwell Street
the terrace
Market,
filled with
phone
people
in
eating,
hand, drinking,
a whirlwind
taking
of emotions
pictures,
battling
and
inside my
congratulating
chest.
Mark and Carrie on
Pain,
the
of
awesome
course.
party they had
Disappointment,
thrown. Obviously.
No
No
one
one
congratulated
new.
me.
Something I
Worse,
hadn't felt in years.
No one introduced me as the
Relief.
grandmother. When
For the
someone
first
new
time in my
arrived,
life,
Carrie would
I
say,
had said no to Lily.
"This is Mark, my husband,"
and she hadn't died.
Or, "This is Brittany,
I
my
hadn't
brother's
died.
girlfriend."
The world hadn't
But when
ended.
it came to me,
An
she
elderly
simply
woman
ignored
selling
me,
jewelry at the next
as if I
stall
were part of
approached
the
me with a
household
worried
staff.
expression. I spent
"Are
most
you
of
all
the
right,
party in
dear?
the kitchen,
You
washing
look a
dishes,
little pale."
refilling the ice bucket, serving
think so,"
drinks.
I answered.
Every now and then,
surprised to
I'd
realize
peek out
it
at
was
the terrace
true.
and see my family
I
shining.
think, for the first
Carrie
time in a
posed for
long
photos
time,
like a celebrity.
I am all right.
Mark
That
told
night,
jokes
in my
and
quiet
everyone
apartment,
laughed.
I packed
Aaron
my
and
suitcase
Brittany
for
slow
Palm
danced.
Springs. And Leo,
I folded my clothes carefully,
Leo was happy.
packed my creams,
That was all that mattered,
my books,
right?
my medications.
But when it came time for the
every
cake,
item I
when they
placed in the
brought out that
suitcase was a
fondant
small
monster
declaration
with
of independence.
lights and plastic figures.
I was going to celebrate my
when
birthday
everyone
alone.
sang happy birthday
And for the
again,
first time
and
in
Leo
years,
blew out the
that
candles
prospect
while the
didn't
guests
fill me with
cheered
sadness.
and applauded.
But with
I
a strange
realized
sense of
something horrible.
anticipation. My grandson hadn't asked about my cake even once. The
Maybe,
cake that had
after
taken me
all,
4
my
hours
own
to
company
make,
would be better
that
than
I
the
had
company
made
of
with
someone
love,
who only
with my
tolerated
aching
me when
hands
she
and
needed
broken
something
back,
from me.
was sitting in the refrigerator like
Before
a shameful
going to bed,
secret.
I looked at my
No one
reflection
had
in the
tasted
bedroom
it.
mirror.
No one had
I
mentioned
saw a
it.
57-year-old
It was
woman
as if it didn't
with
exist,
wrinkles that told stories
as
of
if
other
I
people's
didn't
worries,
exist.
with gray
That
hairs
night,
that spoke
after
of
all the
sleepless
guests had
nights
gone
caring
and the
for
family
others,
was on the terrace,
with eyes
having their
tired
last
from crying
drinks and
tears
laughing
no
about
one
how
had
well
ever
everything
valued.
had turned out. But I
I
also
was in
saw
the kitchen
something new
cleaning
in
up
those
the
eyes.
remnants of the party.
A
Plates
spark
with
that had been
half-eaten
dormant
food,
for far
dirty
too long.
napkins, empty bottles that
Happy
someone
early
would have to
birthday,
take to the
Carol,
trash.
I whispered to myself.
Sophia
For the
ran
first
in,
time in
her
years,
party
you're
dress
going to be the
stained with
guest of
chocolate
honor
from
at
your
your
fancy
fancy
cake.
celebration. Grandma Carol,
On Tuesday
where's your
morning,
cake? My birthday,
the one you made this morning.
I woke up in a completely
In the
different way.
refrigerator, my love.
For the first time in years.
Can I try some?
I didn't have that
Of
heavy
course you
feeling in
can.
my chest when I
I
opened
cut
my
her
eyes.
a large slice and put it on
There
a
were no
small plate
messages
with a
from
little
Lily
spoon.
waiting for me. No
Sophia
family
took a
drama
bite,
to solve.
and her face lit
No
up.
one asking for anything from me.
This
Just
is way
me,
better than the other
my
one,
freshly brewed
she
coffee,
said with her mouth full,
and the suitcase waiting by
tastes
the door
different.
like a promise of freedom.
It tastes like love, sweetie.
The flight to Palm
Like
Springs
love?
left at 10
Does
in the
love have a
morning from
taste?
O'Hare.
Yes, my love.
As I walked through the
It tastes
terminal
like the
with my
hands
small
that made
roller
it while
bag,
thinking of you.
I watched families
Sophia
saying their
didn't
goodbyes,
fully understand what I
couples
said,
traveling
but she
together,
kept eating with a smile.
groups of friends laughing
And
on
for
their
a
way to
moment,
vacation,
watching my granddaughter
for a
enjoy my
moment,
cake in the
that
kitchen where I
familiar
had
pang
spent
of
most of the
loneliness
party.
tried to take hold.
I felt something
but I
close
pushed
to
it away with a
happiness.
determination that
But I
surprised
also
me.
felt something else.
A
On the
strange
plane,
sensation.
an elderly
like
couple
waking
sat
up
across
from
the
a very
aisle from
long
me.
dream. He adjusted the blanket
for
over
the
her
first time in
legs.
4 days,
She brushed crumbs
I was
off his
seeing
shirt
reality
after he ate
without
a
the
sandwich.
filter of blind love.
They spoke with the easy
Lying on my
complicity
couch bed
of
that
those who
night,
had shared
listening to
decades
the
of
ocean
life,
that no longer
who had
sounded
chosen each
sad
other
but
again and
furious.
again despite the
I
passage
asked myself
of
a
time.
question I had never dared
I
to
watched
ask
them
before.
with a mix of nostalgia
When
and
did I
curiosity.
stop being
their mother and become their unpaid maid? And for the first time in my life, I didn't have an answer that could comfort me. The 5th day dawned differently. Not
What would it
because
be
the
like
sun
to
had
have someone
changed,
choose you
or the
for
sea
love
looked
and
any
not for
different from the living
convenience?
room window where I
What
was
would it
still
be like to
sleeping
be
like a
valued
homeless
for who
person
you
in the
were,
house I had rented,
and not for what you could provide?
It was different because something
First time in the
inside me
desert?
had broken
The woman
during
asked
the
me with a
night.
kind smile.
Not from sadness,
No, but it is my
from
first
being
time
fed up.
alone, I replied.
I woke up at 5
and
in the
saying it
morning
out
as
loud.
usual.
The word
But
alone
this time I
didn't
didn't jump
sound
up
as
to start
terrible as I
preparing
had
everyone's
imagined.
breakfast. Oh, how brave, she said, squeezing her husband's hand. I'd be scared to travel alone at my age. I
was
stayed
scared
lying
too,
on that couch
I
that had
admitted.
already marked
But
my body
sometimes
with
the
its
fear of
springs,
staying the same is
staring
greater
at the
than the
white
fear of
ceiling
change.
and wondering when
The
exactly
man
I had
nodded
lost the
wisely.
right to make decisions about
My mother
own
used to
life.
say that life begins
When had I
you decide
accepted
to
that
stop
my
living
needs
for
didn't
others
matter
and start living
when
for
had
yourself?
I signed the invisible contract
His
that
words
made me
stayed
the
with me
official
for the
servant of
entire
their
flight.
vacation I myself had
When
paid
the plane
for?
landed in Palm Springs,
It was 7
I felt like
when
an
I heard the
explorer
first sounds
arriving
of the
in
house
unknown
waking up.
territory.
Not the territory of California, which I knew, but the territory of my own independence. The
Footsteps
taxi
on the
that took
floor
me to the
above,
Palm
the
Royale
shower in
Resort
the
and
master
Spa
bathroom,
wound through the desert
muffled
landscape,
voices planning the day
and I
without
had my
including
nose
me
pressed
in
to the window
decisions.
like a child seeing
This
the
time
ocean
I
for the
didn't get
first
up.
time. At 7:30,
The sun glittered on
Carrie
the
came
swimming
down to the
pools,
kitchen
the
expecting
palm
to find
trees
breakfast
swayed in the
ready
warm
and coffee
breeze.
brewed. And for the first time
Instead,
in months,
she
I took
found
a deep
me,
breath that
still
didn't
lying
taste
down,
bitter, staring at the
celebrating
ceiling as
something
if it were the
special?
most interesting
Asked the
thing in
taxi
the world.
driver.
A tan man in
Mom?
his 50s.
Are you okay?
My birthday.
Why
I
aren't you up
replied.
yet?
I'm
Because I don't
57
feel like
today.
it.
She
Happy
just stood
birthday.
there
And
in
the
her
family?
pink silk robe, her
The
face a
question
mask
hit
of
me,
confusion,
as it always
as if I
did.
had spoken
But
in
this
another
time I
language.
didn't feel the need to
What
make
do you mean you
excuses
don't feel
or
like
justify
it?
Lily's
The kids
absence.
are hungry. Then
It's a
make
gift
them
to
breakfast.
myself.
I said
Me?
simply.
That's
You're their
great.
mother, aren't
My
you?
wife always says that
Carrie
women
looked
forget
at me as
about
if I'd grown a
themselves when they
second
have
head.
kids.
In 5
Good
days
for
of
you for
vacation, it
remembering.
was the first time I hadn't
When I arrived at
immediately
the
jumped to
hotel,
solve everyone
the sight
else's
took my
needs.
breath away.
Oh, Mom, don't start with your drama. You know I can't make pancakes like you do.
It
Then
was
learn.
exactly as I had
taught
pictured
myself when
it.
I was 16.
Elegant yet welcoming.
What's wrong with you?
perfectly
You're
manicured
acting so
gardens
weird.
and a spectacular view of the
Weird.
mountains.
Because I didn't want to get
At
up
the
at
front
5 in the
desk,
morning to
a kind
serve
young
people
woman
who had
handed
given
me
me
a
a
couch
couch
to
to
sleep
sleep
on
on
after I
after I
paid
paid nearly
nearly $4,000
$4,000 for their vacation. It's for your birthday,
What's
Ms.
wrong
Evans.
is that I'm
The
tired.
team wishes you a very
Tired of
special
what?
day, she
All you
said
do
with a
here is
genuine
relax.
smile. I felt like
Relax.
crying, but not
5
from
days
sadness.
of cooking,
It
cleaning,
was pure emotion.
serving.
Sleeping on a couch, being invisible at my own party. That was relaxing to Carrie. It
You're
had been
right,
years since
I
anyone,
said,
finally sitting
absolutely
up,
anyone,
all
had
I
done
do is
something
relax.
special for my
That's
birthday
why
without
today
me asking or
I'm going to
organizing it
actually
myself.
relax. The suite was
I
even
got
more
up from the
beautiful than the
couch,
online photos.
went to the guest bathroom.
It had a
king-size
king-size
cold
bed
water
with
on my
immaculate
face,
linens,
and looked at myself in the
balcony
mirror.
with a mountain view.
The woman looking
a
back
marble
at me was
bathroom with a
62
whirlpool
years
tub,
old,
with
and
a
a
deep
table
dark
with
circles
fresh
under
fruit
her
and a
eyes,
handwritten
messy
card.
hair, and an expression
May
I
you
hadn't
have
seen
a
in a long
memorable
time.
birthday, Ms.
Determination.
Evans.
When
I
I came
sat
out
on
of the
the bed,
bathroom,
and for the
the whole
first time in
family was
weeks,
already in the
I
kitchen.
let myself cry.
Mark
Not from
was scrambling
pain,
eggs. He
but from
clearly
relief.
didn't know how to cook.
I was alone.
Carrie was trying
yes,
to operate the coffee
but
machine
it was
with
a
a look
chosen
of frustration.
solitude,
The
not
kids were
an
complaining
imposed
they were
one.
hungry. It
And
was the
Erin was
solitude
trying to
of freedom,
comfort Brittany,
who had
of
burned her
abandonment.
finger on the stove. The
After
chaos
showering
that
and
ensued
putting
when
on
the
a navy
official
blue
maid
dress,
decided to
I
take
had
a
bought
day off.
especially for this trip.
Good morning, family.
The first new dress
I said
had
with a
bought for
smile I
myself
haven't
in 3
used in
years.
days. I went down to the
How
hotel
did everyone
restaurant.
sleep?
I had booked a
Grandma
table
Carol.
for one,
And
Leo
at first,
shouted. I felt self-conscious, seeing all the tables occupied by couples and families.
My
But then
mom
I
is
remembered
making these
something I
super
had
weird
read in a
eggs,
magazine,
and they don't taste like yours.
A woman dining alone
I'm sure they'll
isn't
be
waiting
delicious,
for
my
company.
love.
She is enjoying
Aren't
her
you
own.
going to make breakfast?
I
Sophia
ordered the
asked with a
pan-seared
disappointed
scallops,
look.
a glass of Chardonnay
Not
from
today,
Napa Valley.
sweetie.
And
Today
for
your mom
dessert,
is going to
a
cook.
chocolate lava cake that the
But
waiter
she doesn't
decorated
know
with a
how,
small candle
then
without me
she'll
even
learn.
asking. Carrie
It's
shot
for
me
your
a look that
birthday,
could have melted the
explained
ice in the
Michael.
freezer. The waiter in his 40s,
Seriously,
who had been
Mom?
especially kind to
Today?
me, when we wanted to get to the beach early. You can leave whenever you want. No one is stopping you.
And
My
what are
mom's
you
been
going to
alone
do?
since my dad passed.
I'm going
and
to
I
have
always tell her
breakfast.
she needs to celebrate herself. I sat down at the kitchen table,
I
in the
blew
chair
out
with
the
the best
candle,
view
making
of the
a wish
garden
that for years
and
had
waited
always
been the same.
for the first
That
time
Lily
in
would
5
love me the
days.
way I loved
I
her.
waited to be served.
But this time,
Mark
my
looked
wish
at
was
me with
different.
that face he made
that
when
I could
something
love
wasn't
myself
going
the way I
according to his
deserved.
plans.
Carol,
After
are
dinner,
you sick?
I went for a walk
No,
along the
Mark,
main strip in
I've never
Palm
felt
Springs.
better. It was
It's
a
just
perfect
that you're
spring
behaving
evening,
very
with warm temperatures
differently.
and a gentle breeze.
differently.
Because
There were
I wasn't
couples
running
strolling
around like a
hand in
headless
hand,
chicken to
families
satisfy
with
all their
children
needs.
eating ice cream,
Maybe
groups
it's
of
her
friends
age,
sitting on
said
patios
Brittany, chewing her
toasting to
gum.
life.
My grandma got
Instead of
kind of
feeling
weird when she
envy or
turned
sadness,
62. I found myself
kind of
observing
weird.
everything with
62 years of life
anthropological
had earned me the right
curiosity,
to be labeled
as if I were a
kind of
scientist
weird
studying a species
by a girl
I was
who
just
couldn't
getting
even
to
fry
know.
an egg.
The species of
They
happy
finally
people.
served me breakfast.
I sat on a bench
Burnt
and took out my
eggs,
phone.
watery coffee,
I had 3 unread
and toast
messages
that tasted like cardboard.
but
My
I ate
heart
it with
skipped a
more
beat,
pleasure than
thinking
all the
maybe
feasts
one
I
was
had
from
prepared
Lily,
over those days.
that maybe
because
she
for
had
the
remembered
first
my
time,
birthday,
someone else
that
had
maybe
worked
she wanted
to
to
feed me.
apologize.
After
The
breakfast,
first was from my bank,
as everyone was getting
confirming
ready
the
to go to
hotel
the
charge.
beach, I announced
The second
my next
was from my
rebellion.
cell phone company,
I'm not
offering
going.
me a promotion.
What do you mean
The
you're
third
not
was
going?
from Susan,
Carrie
my old
asked.
coworker from Target.
I don't feel like
wishing
going
me
to the
a happy
beach.
birthday.
But you
None
always
from
say
Lily.
you love the ocean.
Instead of sinking into
and
despair,
I felt
but
something
today
liberating.
I'd rather stay here.
Doing what?
Nothing. Actually relaxing.
For
The
the
truth
first
was,
time in years,
I had a
my
plan.
birthday hadn't
A
depended on
plan
whether
that
she
had been
remembered
brewing
or
in my
not.
head since dawn.
I hadn't
When I
waited for her
realized I could
call.
no longer go
I
on
hadn't
living like an
interpreted her
unpaid
silence
maid in
as
my
a
own
personal
life.
failure. They left
It
at
had
10
been
in
a
the
beautiful
morning,
day on its own
all
merits,
together,
not
loaded
because
with
of anyone
towels,
else's validation.
umbrellas, coolers full of beer and soda, and sunscreen that cost more than a week's worth of my groceries. They said goodbye with the kind of condescension you use with old people who can't keep up with the young ones anymore.
That
Don't do
night,
anything
in the
strenuous,
whirlpool
Mom,
tub in my
Carrie
suite,
told me,
with the lights
just
of the city
rest.
twinkling in the distance
And if you
the
need
quiet
anything,
hum of
just
the
call
desert
us,
as my soundtrack,
Mark added.
I
as if
realized
you were
something
doing me a huge
extraordinary.
favor. I had
I
spent a
watched
full
them
day
walk away
without
from the
thinking
living
about
room
how to
window.
make Lily happy.
My family
I had
enjoying
thought
the
about what I
vacation I
wanted
paid
for dinner,
for,
what
freeing
dress I
themselves
wanted to
from the
wear,
burden of
what
having to
places I
pretend
wanted
they
to visit
wanted
the
me
next
around.
day. I had made
As soon as they
decisions based on
disappeared
my
down
own
the path
tastes,
to the beach,
my own desires.
I did something I
my
hadn't
own
done in
comfort.
5 days.
I smiled for real. I went to the master bedroom.
The
When was
suite
the
that
last
had
time
been
I had done
reserved
that?
for my brother
I
Matthew,
couldn't remember.
who, of course,
For
never
years,
had any
every
intention of
decision
coming.
had been filtered through the
The
question:
largest room in the house,
what will
with
Lily
a panoramic ocean
Will
view,
she like it?
a jacuzzi,
Will I
air
embarrass her?
conditioning, and a
Will
king-size
she get
bed
angry?
that looked like a cloud.
But there,
The door
soaking
was
in warm
locked.
water with aromatic
But I had all the
bath
keys
salts
to the
I had
house
chosen myself
because I had rented
I
it
understood
in my
that I
name,
had been living
with
as
my
an
credit
actress
card,
playing the
with
role
my
of
money.
the perfect mother.
I opened
Instead
the
of
door
living as
and
Carol,
walked in.
the woman. The room was spectacular.
The
Huge
next
windows
day,
that looked
I
straight
did
out
something
to the
I
sea.
hadn't done in
A
decades.
private terrace with lounge
I
chairs.
woke up when my
a
body
marble
wanted to
bathroom
wake
with a
up,
tub that could
not
fit
when an
3
alarm
people.
clock went off.
Everything my
It was
children had
9:30 in the
decided I
morning.
didn't deserve.
The sun was streaming
But the house was
softly
in
through
my
the
name.
curtains.
And
And
for
for
the first
primary
time in
guest,
years,
I
I was
had nothing
entitled to the
scheduled
best
that wasn't
room.
exactly what
I
I
went to
wanted
get
to
my
do.
suitcase from the towel
I
closet,
had breakfast
where they
on
had
my
shoved me
balcony,
away like a hired
watching the
hand.
mountains as I ate croissants with homemade jam and drank my coffee.
I read a few
to the
pages of a
master
novel I
bedroom
had
and
started
began to
and
unpack
abandoned
my
1,000
clothes in the
times
walk-in closet
because I
that
always
was bigger
had
than my
more
kitchen
important
back in
things to
Queens.
do. I hung
After
my dresses
breakfast,
on the wooden
I
hangers,
made a spontaneous
placed my
decision.
underwear in the
I
velvet-lined
canceled my
drawers
return flight
and put my
scheduled for that
medications in the
afternoon
marble
and
bathroom
decided to
stay 2 more days. For the first time in
I
5
called the
days,
hotel and asked
I
if I
felt
could
like a
extend my
real
stay.
guest instead of a
Of
tolerated
course, Ms.
intruder.
Evans. Same type
Then
of
I
room?
took a bath.
The same suite,
A
please.
long bath with
And
hot water.
could you book
in
me
the
a spa
marble
appointment
tub
for tomorrow?
with bath
Full
salts
body
I found in a
massage,
small
facial,
basket next to
whatever
the jacuzzi.
you recommend.
It
It
will
will
be
be up
our
to my
pleasure
neck
to
and
arrange
closed
my
everything.
eyes, listening to the
When I
sound
hung
of the
up,
ocean
I
through the
laughed out
open
loud
window.
in my room.
For the
It
first
was the
time in
first
5
completely
days,
impulsive
the ocean
and sounded
independent
peaceful.
decision I had made in years.
When I got out of the
I hadn't
bath,
consulted
I put on
anyone,
my favorite
hadn't
white
asked
dress,
for permission,
the one that makes
hadn't
me feel
justified
elegant,
the extra expense,
even though I bought it at a
I
department
had
store
simply
clearance
decided I
sale.
deserved 2 more days
I
of
put on
peace,
makeup for the
and I
first
had
time
given
since
them
we
to
arrived.
myself, did my hair carefully, and looked at myself in the mirror. The woman looking back at me no longer looked like a servant. That
She looked like a
afternoon,
62-year-old
walking through
woman
Palm
who
Springs'
knew her
downtown
worth.
area,
I
with
made
its
myself a
mid-century
coffee
modern
and Carrie's
architecture
expensive
and
machine,
bougainvillea-draped
a
walls.
double espresso,
I
just
stumbled
like the
upon
one
a small
Mark had every
artisan
morning
jewelry
while
shop.
I settled for a tea
In the
bag.
window was a silver
It tasted like
necklace with a
freedom.
simple but elegant
I
bird-shaped
sat on the
pendant.
private terrace of the master
I
bedroom
went inside and
with
tried
my
it on.
coffee and my direct view of
It
the
looks
ocean.
beautiful on you.
And for the first
The
time in
saleswoman
5
said.
days,
Is it a
I
gift?
understood why people paid so
Yes,
much money for
I
vacations
replied,
in places
looking
like
at
this.
myself in the small mirror. It's a gift to myself.
And
when
for
my
the
family
first time
returned
in my
from the
adult
beach at
life,
2 in the
I
afternoon,
bought myself a piece of
sunburned
jewelry
and tired
without
from all
feeling
their
guilty.
fun,
Without
they
thinking
found me
about
on
the
the main
money I
terrace,
could be saving for
reading
Lily,
a magazine I had
without
found in
justifying
the
the
house,
purchase
sipping my
as
second
a
coffee of the
necessity.
day.
Mom,
That night, I dined
Carrie yelled
alone
from
again in the
downstairs.
hotel restaurant.
Where
But
are
this
you?
time, I didn't feel
Upstairs
self-conscious.
in my room.
I felt free.
There was a silence.
Michael,
Then,
the waiter,
footsteps
came
running
over
up
to
the
ask how my
stairs.
day had been.
Carrie appeared on the
Wonderful,
terrace with a
I
look of
told him.
utter confusion.
For the first time in years.
What are you doing here?
Truly wonderful.
This room was for Uncle Matthew.
On
Matthew
Thursday
didn't
morning,
come, as I enjoyed
and this
my
is
second
my
cup of
house.
coffee on the suite's
Your
balcony.
house?
My
The
phone
house
began
began
to
to
ring
ring insistently.
in my name.
With
It was
my
Lily.
money. My house.
I looked at the screen
For the
without
first
the
time in
desperate
5
urgency
days,
of before.
Carrie was speechless.
Without that knot in my
and for
stomach
the first
that
time
each
in
of her
5
calls
days,
used to cause.
I felt at home.
I let it go
The
to
afternoon
voicemail.
of the 5th day became
5
a
minutes
silent
later,
battlefield.
she called again.
And
After
then
Carrie
again,
found me settled in the
and
master
again.
bedroom like the owner I
Finally,
truly was,
I answered.
She ran
More
downstairs
out of
to tell
curiosity
Mark what
than
had happened.
anxiety.
Hello?
I replied with a calm that surprised me. I heard them
Finally,
from my private
you answer.
terrace, their agitated
Her voice
voices
sounded
rising
different,
from the pool
sharper.
area, less controlled.
She moved into
Matthew's
Mom,
room.
we need to
Carrie
talk.
was telling Mark,
Urgently.
in that hysterical tone
I'm
she
listening.
used when things didn't
Where
go
are
her
you?
way. I went to your
She
apartment
says
and
it's
you're
her
not there.
house.
The neighbors
Well,
said they saw you leave with
technically,
a
it
suitcase.
is her house.
For the
Mark
first time
replied
in
with
years,
the cold
Lily
logic
had
he
come
used
looking
when
for
he
me
wanted to
without
sound
calling
reasonable.
first. The
She
irony
rented
was
it.
almost comical. But we had
I'm in
already
Palm
agreed that room
Springs,
was for
celebrating
Matthew
my
if he
birthday.
came, like I told you I would. Matthew never confirmed he was coming. Your
You
mom
actually
has a right
went?
to be in there.
Alone?
For a moment,
tone
I
held a
thought
mix
Mark
of
was going to be
disbelief
my
and
ally.
something I couldn't immediately
How naive
identify.
of me.
Yes,
the problem isn't the
alone.
room, Mark
And it's been
continued.
wonderful.
The problem is she's acting
There
really
was a
weird.
long silence
She
on the
wouldn't
other
make
end of the
breakfast.
line.
She didn't want
I
to
could
come
hear
to the
her
beach,
breathing
and now
quicken,
this, as if she were
I think she's
processing
throwing a
information
tantrum
that
because she's
didn't fit
upset
the
about
image she had
something.
of me. A tantrum.
Mom,
I need to see you. A 62-year-old
There's something
woman
very
who
important
finally
I have to
decided to
tell
treat
you.
herself with dignity was throwing a tantrum.
Do
More
you think
important
she's
than
mad
my
about
birthday,
something?
Carrie
Which you
asked.
decided not to celebrate
I don't
with
know.
me? But she's being
Please
very
don't
selfish.
start with that again.
She comes on a
It's
family
about Dad.
vacation and then doesn't
My
want to be with the
ex-husband.
family.
The man who had
Selfish.
abandoned us when Lily
For not
was
wanting
3
to be the
and
official
whom we hadn't
servant
heard
of the
from in over
vacation
2
I paid
decades.
for.
What about him?
Half an hour later,
He's dead, Mom.
there was a knock on
I
my
found
door.
out yesterday.
Not
And
the bedroom door,
she paused
but the one to
dramatically.
the terrace.
He left us
They had
an
come up
inheritance.
the external stairs as if
I
I were
felt
a
a strange
stranger who had
vertigo.
sneaked onto the property.
It was Carrie, but she wasn't alone. She
Not
was holding Leo
sadness
by
for
the
the
death
hand.
of a man who had been a
Mom, can we
stranger for
talk?
more than 20 years.
Of course, come in.
But a surreal sense
Carrie
that the
entered my
universe
terrace
was
with
playing
Leo,
a cosmic
who
joke.
looked confused and a little
An
sad.
inheritance? My daughter had brought my
Yes.
grandson as an
He
emotional
owned property
shield.
in Scottsdale
Typical.
we didn't know about.
about? Leo has
A
something
lawyer
to tell
called
you.
me because he had
Carrie
my
announced,
contact information.
subtly pushing the boy
We're
forward.
the only heirs.
It's a
Grandma
lot of money,
Carol.
Mom, Leo
A
said in the
lot.
small voice he used when his
And
mother
there it
forced
was.
him to apologize
The
for
reason
something
for her
he didn't
sudden interest in
understand.
finding me.
Are you mad at
It
me?
wasn't regret for calling
My
me
heart
a
broke.
crazy old lady.
It
Carrie
wasn't
had
guilt
used
for
my
my spending
grandson
my
to make me
birthday
feel
alone.
guilty.
It was money.
No, my love. Why
Come
would
back
you
to
think
Chicago,
that?
please.
We
Because
have to
my
go to
mom says you
Scottsdale
don't
together
want to
to
be
sign
with
the
us
papers.
anymore. The lawyer says
There
we
it
could
was.
each inherit over
Manipulation
$200,000
disguised as
$200,000.
family concern.
$200,000.
Leo, honey,
I knelt down to
fortune
his
for
level.
someone like me who had
I'm
spent
not
her
mad at
entire
you,
life
or
pinching
Sophia or
pennies.
Sebastian. You three are what I love most in this world. Then why didn't you want to come to the beach with us? Because sometimes adults need time for themselves.
And
Like when
that's
you
why
need
you're
to be
calling
alone
me?
in your room
Because
playing
of the
video
inheritance?
games.
How can
Leo
you ask me
nodded
that?
as if he understood.
I'm calling you because
but
you're
Carrie
my mother and
immediately
we have to do this
intervened.
together.
It's different, Mom.
Her voice took on that
Leo is a
victimized,
child.
reproachful
You're an
tone
adult,
I knew so
and
well.
you came on a family vacation.
When exactly did you find out?
A family vacation.
Yesterday afternoon.
Where I was the only
Why?
one working.
Carrie,
Yesterday was my birthday,
can you let Leo
Lily,
go play?
and you didn't call me.
I want to talk to you alone.
Not even to say happy birthday.
No, he can stay.
But today,
He's
when there's
family.
money involved,
Leo,
you call me
sweetie.
desperately. Can you go check on your sister
Mom,
and cousin?
don't be so suspicious.
I'll be down to see you all in a little bit.
I
Leo
was obviously
ran off,
busy with this
happy to
lawyer
escape
stuff
an
and-
adult conversation
You know
he
what?
didn't understand.
I interrupted,
but
feeling
could
a
feel
crystal
with clear
tense.
clarity. As
I'm
soon as he
flying
was
back to
gone,
Chicago tomorrow.
Carrie's demeanor
We'll meet
changed
on Saturday.
completely. But Mom,
What is
the
wrong
lawyer
with
can
you,
see us
Mom?
tomorrow if
You're acting so weird.
Saturday, Lily, at my
Weird
apartment
how?
at 5 in the afternoon.
I don't know, like
And I
rebellious.
hung up.
Like you're a teenager.
For the first time in the history of our
Rebellious.
relationship.
Because
Because
I had
one
decided
set
to
the
sleep in a
terms.
bed after 5
I
nights
had been
on a
the one who
couch.
said when and where.
Carrie, tell me something.
I had been the one who hung up first.
on
Who paid
Friday
for this
morning.
house before packing
You
my
did,
suitcase to
but
return to Chicago.
Who has cooked every
I
single
did
day
one
since we
last
got
thing
here?
in Palm Springs.
You have.
I went to a
But
lawyer's
that's because
office
you
and
like
drafted my will, who has cleaned,
simple
washed
but
dishes,
crucial
served
document.
food, and prepared snacks.
If
anything happened to me,
Mom,
everything
where are you
I
going
owned,
with this?
including my share of the
I'm going to the
inheritance,
fact that I
would
have
be
worked
donated
for
to a
5
foundation
straight
for
days on
battered
a
women.
vacation I paid for.
Not because I
I
hated
have slept
Lily,
on a couch while
but
you
because
all
I had
sleep in
understood
comfortable
that money
beds.
was the only
And when
thing
I
she cared
finally
about
decide
from
to
me.
treat myself like
And
what
if
I
that
am,
were the case,
the person
then
who
she
made
didn't
this
deserve
trip
it.
possible.
You.
Tell
On
me I'm
Saturday
acting
at 5
weird.
o'clock sharp,
Carrie was
Lily
quiet
appeared
for a
at my
moment.
door.
For
She
the
was
first time in
impeccably
5
dressed
days,
in an
she seemed to be
expensive
actually
outfit I hadn't seen
processing
before,
what I was saying.
and carried a bouquet of flowers she
just-
had likely bought
we
from a
thought
street
you
vendor.
liked doing those things.
Mom, do you
Happy
like washing
belated
dishes?
birthday,
She
No.
said, giving me a
Do you
kiss
like
on the
getting
cheek
up
that
at
felt
5 in the morning to
calculated
make
and
breakfast
cold.
for 5 people?
Thank you, I
No.
replied without emotion. Do you like being given
Come
the
in.
worst place to sleep in a house you paid for? No, but then why would you think that I do? Another long pause. Carrie
she
wrung
sat
her
on the
hands,
sofa with the
something
familiarity
she'd done
of
since
someone
she
who
was a little
believes
girl
nothing
when
has
she knew
changed,
she'd done something
with the
wrong,
confidence
but
of
didn't
someone
want to
who
admit
assumes
it.
a small gesture
Erases all prior damage.
I don't know.
How was Palm
You've
Springs?
just always
She
done
asked
it.
with a smile that
Ever
didn't reach
since we
her
were
eyes.
kids.
Transformative.
And that gives you the right to take advantage
Something
of me?
in my tone made her smile
We're not
falter
taking
slightly,
advantage of
but she
you.
recovered quickly.
It's just that you've never said
Well,
anything.
Tell me all
I'm
about
saying
the
it now.
inheritance, she said.
But we're already halfway
changing the
through the
subject to what
vacation.
truly mattered
You
to
can't
her.
just change the rules like this.
The rules. As
Before
if there were
that,
written rules
I want to talk about
stating that I
something more
had to be the
important.
slave of my own vacation.
More important than $200,000?
Do you love me?
Much
The
more
question
important.
took her by surprise.
I sat across
How can
from
you
her,
ask me that?
maintaining a
You're my
physical
mom.
distance that symbolized
not
the
an
emotional
answer.
chasm that
Do
had
you love
formed
me?
between us.
Of course I
Lily.
do. For 28 years, I lived believing you were the most important person in my life, that everything I did made sense because it was for you and about you.
Mom,
then why do you treat
where
me
are you
like your
going with this?
employee? Let me
I don't treat
finish,
you like an
I said with a
employee.
firmness that surprised her.
You give me the worst
I have
room.
sacrificed
You
everything
put me
for
to work
you.
cooking for
My
everyone.
youth, my
You
dreams,
don't include me in
my
conversations,
savings, my
You
relationships,
don't
my
introduce
very
me as your
identity.
mother when your friends
I
come
laid
over.
it all on the
What do you
altar
call
of
that?
your happiness. Carrie started
And
to
I
cry.
appreciate it.
Tears of
No, you
frustration,
don't.
guilt,
And that's
and
the
anger.
truth.
It has taken me
The
57
tears of
years
someone
to
who has been
understand.
confronted with a truth
She
they
shifted
didn't want to see.
uncomfortably on the sofa, as if sensing this conversation wasn't heading where she wanted it to.
I
On
just
Tuesday,
didn't know it
you called
bothered
me
you.
a crazy
You've
old
always
lady
been this way.
because I wanted to spend my birthday
Well,
with you.
I'm not going to be this
then
way
you
anymore.
called to ask for money for Cancun.
What does that mean?
Using my
It
affection
means
as a
that
bargaining
from now
chip.
on, I will
And
be
now you
treated
show
like
up
what
here
I
with
am.
gas station flowers
Your mother,
because there's an
not
inheritance
your
to
maid.
split. Carrie wiped her tears and looked at me with a mixture of sadness and anger. Fine, Mom, if that's what you want. It's what I need. She left my terrace without another word. I
Mom,
watched her go down
you're
the external
exaggerating
stairs,
everything.
wiping her nose on the
Do you
sleeve
know
of her
when the
expensive
last time was that
blouse.
you asked me how I
But the
was?
war had just begun.
The last time you gave me a gift
An
that
hour
wasn't out
later,
of obligation?
Mark came up to talk to
The
me.
last time you spent time
No
with me
knock,
without
no
wanting
asking
something
for
in
permission.
return?
He just
Her eyes
appeared on my
began to well
terrace
up with
as if it
tears.
were
She
his
knew
right
exactly
to be
when
there.
to use.
Carol,
I can't believe
we
you're
need to
saying this
talk.
to me. I'm
Good
your
afternoon,
daughter.
Mark.
I love you.
Carrie is very
No,
upset.
Lily.
The kids
You
are
love what
asking
I can
what's
give
wrong.
you.
This is
There
getting getting out of
world of
control.
difference.
What's getting out of control? This situation, your attitude, my attitude. I
The
stood up
problem
and
wasn't
walked to
that
the
they had
bookshelf
treated me
where I
like a
kept the
domestic
family
servant
photos.
for 5 days.
I picked up one of her when she was 5,
defending myself,
where she was hugging me with a genuine childhood
do you know how
smile.
much this house cost? This little
Yes,
girl loved me.
Carrie told me,
I said,
38.50.
showing her the photo.
Do you know
But
who
the
paid
woman
for
sitting
it?
on my sofa
You did.
only needs me when there's
Do you
money
know where
involved.
I've been sleeping since we arrived?
That's not true.
In the living room,
Isn't
but
it?
Does
Prove
that
it.
seem fair to you?
Tell me one
Mark
single thing
sighed
you
with
know
the
about my life
exasperation
right
he
now
used
that
when he
doesn't
had
have
to
to do
explain
with what I
something
can
he
do for
considered
you.
obvious.
Tell me
Girl,
what my
I
fears
understand
are,
you feel
my dreams, my
I don't know.
worries. Left out.
Tell me how I feel living
But you
alone
have to
in this
understand
apartment
that we
since
have
you
families.
left. The kids need
The
their
silence
spaces.
that followed
Carrie
was
and I need our
deafening.
privacy. I saw
It's
her
just
searching for
logical.
an answer she didn't have.
Logical.
Because for years
It
she
was
had treated me
logical
like
that
a
the
person
service,
who paid for
not a
everything
person.
should sleep on the floor.
Mom,
I
I don't
she
need
started.
space.
But I
I don't
stopped
need
her with a
privacy?
gesture. You don't
Yes,
have to answer,
but you're here alone.
because we both know the
You
truth.
don't have the
same needs we do. I went to my bedroom
Because
and
being
took an
alone
envelope
meant
from
not
my
having
nightstand that I
basic
had
human
prepared that
needs.
morning. Mark, this conversation is over. Here's the
Carol,
information
be
for the lawyer
reasonable.
in Scottsdale.
The conversation
I said,
is over.
handing her the envelope. Mark stood there
You
for
can
a
go
few
alone
seconds
to claim
as
your
if
share of the
waiting for me to
inheritance.
change my mind. My share? When he
What
saw
about
it
yours?
wasn't going to happen,
I have renounced
he left,
mine.
muttering
Her face
something I
completely
didn't care to hear.
transformed.
The
That
loving
night,
daughter mask
we
fell
had
away
dinner
to
in a
reveal the
tense
real
silence.
Lily. Disbelief,
They had ordered pizza,
panic, because
and
no one
finally,
wanted
a
to cook
fury
now
she
that
no
the
longer
official cook
bothered
had
to
resigned
hide.
from her post.
Are you insane?
The kids ate
How
quietly,
can you renounce
sensing the tension,
$200,000
even if they didn't
easily?
understand what
I
it
don't
was
need
about.
it. Aaron
I've
and
lived
Brittany
my whole
pretended
life
nothing
without
was
your
wrong,
father's money,
talking about
and I can
nonsense
continue
from
to
social
do so.
media. But
I
it's
ate
my
my pizza
inheritance
peacefully,
too. It's
enjoying
money
every
for our
bite.
future.
Because for the first
And
time
there
in
was
6
the naked
days,
truth.
someone else had ordered
Our
and paid for
future.
my food. As if I
After
were an
dinner, I
extension
said
of her,
goodnight to the
as if
children
my
with
money
extra
were
long
automatically
hugs
her
and
money,
kisses.
as if my financial
Grandma Carol,
decisions had to be
are you going to come
subordinate
to
to
the
her
beach with us
needs.
tomorrow?
Sophia
Your
asked
future,
me.
Lily. If you ask
Never
me
ours.
nicely, yes.
You are 28 and have a whole life ahead of you. I am 57 and have just realized that I have a life ahead of me too. A life I am
what's
going to
asking
live for
nicely?
myself.
Asking
She shot
me
up
if I
from
want
the
to go,
sofa as if she
instead
were
of just
about to
assuming
explode,
I have to.
her face red and her
Sophia
fists
didn't
clenched.
fully understand.
You can't
But
do
she
this
nodded
to me
as if it were the
I'm your
most
daughter.
logical thing
It's
in the
my
world.
right.
That
Your right
night,
is the
for
share
the
that
first time
legally
in 6
belongs to
days,
you.
I
slept
slept
in a
more.
real bed.
My share is
with
mine.
clean sheets,
and I have
soft
decided to
pillows,
donate
and
it.
air conditioning.
Donate it.
For the first
To
time
whom?
in 6 days,
To a foundation
I woke up
for battered
rested.
women.
But I
Women
also
who need a
woke
new
up knowing
start,
that the
who
real
need a
battle
chance
was
to
just
rebuild their
beginning.
lives.
She
Because
stared
I
at
had
me as
learned
if she
something
didn't recognize
important.
me.
As
When
if
a
the
woman
woman she
finally
had been
decides to
manipulating for
respect
years
herself,
had
the
transformed
rest
into
of
a
the world
stranger.
tries to convince her
This
she's
isn't
gone
over.
crazy, she threatened.
The 6th
heading for
day
the door.
dawned with a
I'm going to
tranquility
contest
I hadn't
it.
felt in years.
I'll prove you're not of sound
I woke
mind.
up in my king-size
You
bed.
can try.
The sea
I
breeze
replied
coming
with a
through
calm
the
that
open
unnerved her
windows.
even more.
And for the first time
But I
since
have a will
arriving
drawn
in
up by a
Hilton
lawyer
Head,
in Palm Springs
I felt
that
like
says
I
the
was
exact
actually on
opposite.
vacation.
She stopped dead
I
in her
stayed in
tracks.
bed for a few more
A
minutes.
will? Not
Yes.
because I was tired, but because I could. And
Because
it
for
makes
the
it
first
very
time in
clear
6
that I am of
days,
sound mind.
I didn't have to
and
jump
that
out
all
of
my
bed to
decisions
prepare
are fully
breakfast for
conscious
5
and
people who
voluntary.
took me for granted.
For the first time in her
When I
adult
finally
life,
came down at
Lily had
8:30,
no answer.
I found the chaos I had
She
been
had no
expecting.
manipulation to use, no tears to shed, no emotional blackmail to apply. You're right about one thing, I said as I opened the door. I am a crazy old lady. Crazy for taking so long to realize that I deserve to be treated with respect and genuine love. Crazy for believing that love could be bought with sacrifices. She
Carrie
left
was
my
trying to
apartment
make
without
coffee in the
another
machine
word,
she didn't
and
know
I
how to
closed the
use.
door with a sense of
Mark was
liberation
desperately
I had
searching
never
for something
experienced
to
before.
eat
In a fridge full of ingredients he
That
didn't know
night,
how to prepare.
for the first time in
and the
28
kids were eating
years,
dry cereal
I went
straight
to
from the
sleep
box
without worrying
because
if
no
Lily
one had
was
thought to buy
okay.
milk. If she needed anything.
Good morning, family.
If she would
I said
ever
with a
forgive
genuine
me.
smile.
For the
They
first
all
time
looked
in
at me
decades,
as if I were a ghost.
I only worried about myself. The next 2 weeks were the strangest, and at the same time, the most liberating of my life.
For the
Carrie
first
had dark
time in
circles under her
decades,
eyes
there
that
was no
betrayed a
family
bad
drama
night's
to
sleep.
manage.
Mark's hair
No
was a
emotional
mess, and his
crises
face
from
was
Lily
etched
to
with
solve.
frustration,
No
and the
requests
kids
for
just
money
looked
to consider.
confused,
There
unable
was
to
only
understand why
silence.
breakfast wasn't ready
A
like
silence that
always.
scared me at first.
Morning, Mom.
But that slowly
Carrie
became
mumbled
my
without
best
looking me in the eye.
companion.
How did you all
On the
sleep?
Monday after our confrontation,
Fine. While having my
Mark
morning
answered
coffee,
curtly,
I received
I
a call
slept
from
like
the
a
lawyer
queen.
in Scottsdale.
Scottsdale.
That bed is incredible. Now I understand why it costs so much to rent this house.
Lily
Lily
had
had
gone
gone
to
to
claim
claim
her
her
share
share
of
of
the
the
inheritance.
A
And
reminder
as he
that I
told
had
me
paid
with
for
some
the privilege of a
bewilderment,
good night's
had
sleep.
asked several
A
times if
privilege
I
they
could
had
change my
denied me
mind
for
about
5
renouncing my
days.
portion.
Grandma Carol,
The young woman
Sophia
seemed very
approached me.
intense.
Are you making pancakes
The
today?
man told me with
Not
professional
today, my love.
diplomacy.
Your mommy is going
Are
to
you
cook.
completely sure of your decision?
But mommies aren't any good.
Completely.
Then
I
she'll
answered without a
practice
hint
until
of
they
doubt.
are.
When
That's
can
how
I sign the
learned.
donation to the foundation?
Carrie shot me a look that
We
could
can do
have
it
cut
this
glass,
week if you like.
but she said nothing.
It's a considerable amount,
She knew
Ms.
I was
Evans.
right.
I poured myself a cup
$200,000
of coffee
can change a lot of
from
lives.
Carrie's espresso machine.
I hope
because
so.
now I too was entitled
That
to decent
afternoon,
coffee
for the first time
and went
in
out to the
years,
main terrace.
I didn't stay home
The
waiting
view
for
from
a
there
call
was
that wouldn't come.
spectacular.
I dressed
The
with
ocean
care,
stretched to
put on
infinity,
the necklace I had
a
bought in
blue
Palm
so
Springs,
perfect it looked
and
painted.
went out to walk around
And
Chicago
for the first
like
time
a
since
tourist
we
in my own
arrived,
city.
I felt like a part of
I
that
went to
beauty.
Lincoln Park,
instead
a
of
park
just
I had
the
visited
servant
a
who cleaned up
thousand
after
times
it.
with Lily when she was little.
Half an
but
hour
hadn't
later,
returned to
Aaron
since she
appeared
moved
with an
out.
expression I hadn't seen on him before. He seemed nervous.
Mom,
I sat by the
can we
pond
talk?
and watched the families
Of
feeding
course,
the
honey.
ducks.
Sit down.
The elderly couples strolling
Aaron
slowly.
sat in the chair across
the
from
young
me, but he
people
wouldn't meet my
exercising
eyes.
with that infinite
He looked at
energy
the
of someone
ocean,
with their
the
whole
plants,
life ahead of them.
anything but my face.
On a nearby bench,
Is
a
everything
woman
okay
about
with
my
you?
age was reading a book while
Better than
sipping
ever.
coffee from a
Why?
thermos. Something
It's
about
just-
her tranquility
I
was
don't know.
magnetic.
Carrie says you're acting
Is
weird.
it any good? What do you
I
think?
asked, pointing to the book.
I don't know. You seem
Wonderful. She
different.
replied with a smile.
Different how? Like more, I don't know how to say it. More confident. Interesting.
It's
my younger
about a woman
son,
who decides
had
to
always
hike
been
the
more
Appalachian
observant
Trail
one,
alone in
was
her
the only
60s.
one who didn't see my change
And
as
does she
something
make it?
negative. She's in
Is
the
that
process.
a bad thing?
Do you like to
No.
read? I'm just
I
curious
used to.
why now. It's been years since I've
Why
had
now
time
what?
for it.
What a
Why did you
shame.
decide until now
Books
to
are the best company once you
I don't
learn to
know.
enjoy your own solitude.
stand up for yourself? Those words resonated with
The
me for
question
the
took
rest
me
of
by
the day.
surprise.
It was
Once
deeper
you
than I
learn to
expected
enjoy
from
your own
Aaron,
solitude.
who usually avoided emotional conversations. I think because it's only now that I understood I needed to. Was
Have we
that what I
always
was treated
doing?
you badly? Was I learning to enjoy
The question
being with
hurt
myself?
because I knew Aaron genuinely
The next
didn't know
day,
the
I did
answer.
something I hadn't
My
done in
son,
years.
now 32,
I went to a bookstore.
had never realized
not
that
to
I had
buy a gift
sacrificed
for
my
Lily
dignity
or something
to keep the family
educational
together.
she might need. Not
but
badly,
for a purely
but
personal
not well
pleasure.
either. I spent
What do you
2
mean?
hours among the shelves,
Like I was your
browsing
employee,
novels,
not your
travel
mother.
books, biographies
Aaron
of
was
women who had
quiet
done
for a long
extraordinary
time,
things after
watching
50.
the ocean.
I
left
could see
with
him
4
processing
books
memories
and a sense of
replaying
anticipation
years
I
of
hadn't felt
interactions
since I
with
was a
me through this
teenager.
new lens. I had plans.
You're
Plans
right.
that included
He
no
said
one but
finally.
me. On
We
Thursday,
always just assumed
while I was
you would
reading
do
one of my new
everything,
books on my balcony,
that you would pay for
the
everything,
doorbell rang, that you'd be available
For a moment,
for
my heart
everything.
raced,
thinking
Yes.
it might be Lily. And we never
but it
asked
was
if you
Susan,
wanted to.
my old coworker from
No.
Target, with whom I
Why
had
didn't
lost
you ever
touch
say
after she
anything?
retired.
Because I was
Susan?
afraid that if I stopped
said,
doing all that,
unable
you
to
wouldn't
hide
love
my
me
surprise.
anymore.
Hi,
The
honey.
confession tumbled
Can I
out of
come
my
in?
mouth before I could
I have
stop
something
it.
to tell you.
I made tea for both of us, and we sat at the kitchen table like old times.
I
It was
heard
the
you're not at
rawest,
Target
most
anymore,
painful truth
she
of
said
my
directly.
life as a mother.
What happened?
I had been buying love with
Layoffs,
sacrifices
I
for
replied,
30 years, and I realized that for the
Aaron
first time,
looked at me for the
I
first
felt
time
no
in
shame
the
in
entire
admitting it.
conversation,
And
his
after
eyes were
18
wet.
years, they let me go
Mom,
because my seniority
we
made
love
me
you
too
because you're our
expensive.
mom.
Sons
Not
of bitches,
because of what you do for
Susan
us.
said bluntly.
Really?
Same thing happened to me 3
Really?
years ago.
Then
That's
you
why I
shouldn't
have a
here.
problem with me
What do
stopping
you mean?
doing everything for you.
A
group of us,
No.
women who lost our jobs
We
after
shouldn't.
50, have started a
It was
co-op.
the
first real conversation I'd had with one of my children since we arrived. No
Cleaning
manipulation,
services,
no
elder
emotional
care,
blackmail,
organizing
no drama.
family events,
Just honesty.
things we know how to do well
Can I
because
stay
we've
here with
been
you for
doing
a
them
bit?
our whole lives.
Aaron asked me.
She explained
Brittany
that they had
is
started
taking
as
pictures
5
for
desperate
Instagram
women
and
and
I'm
are
tired
now
of posting.
15, with a growing
Of course,
client
honey.
wait list. We sat
You know
there
why
in
it
silence,
works? She
watching the
asked,
sea,
her eyes
enjoying
shining.
each other's company
Because
without
women
me
our
needing
age
to
know
be
how to
doing
work.
something for him.
We're
or
not
giving
thinking
him
about
something.
boyfriends or partying
For
or
the first
changing
time in
jobs every
years,
6 months.
my son wanted to be
We're
with
here
me
to
just
stay and get
because.
the job done right.
It
At
sounds
noon,
wonderful,
when
but
the
I
sun
don't
was
know
at
if
its
I could.
highest, and the heat had
Could
become
what?
unbearable
Carol,
for everyone else.
You were a checkout supervisor.
I decided to do
You
something
handled
I hadn't
cash.
done since
You
we
dealt with
arrived.
difficult customers.
Get in the pool.
You solved problems
I put
under
on
pressure.
my swimsuit.
Are
A
you
navy
telling
blue
me you
one
can't
piece
organize
I
a
had
kid's
bought
birthday
especially for
party
this
or
trip,
clean an office?
but hadn't worn because
She
I'd
was
been too
right.
busy serving
For
others.
years I had
and
underestimated
went down
myself.
to the pool where the
Had
whole
thought my
family was
skills were
taking
worthless
refuge
because
from
I
the
didn't
heat.
have a college degree or an
When I
impressive
slipped
resume.
into the water,
But
there
I
was
knew
a
how to do a
strange
lot of
silence.
things. and I did them well. As
When
if
do
my
I
presence
start?
in the pool
I
was
asked,
unexpected,
and hearing my
even
own
though
words,
it was the pool of the
I was
house that
surprised
I
by
had
the
rented.
determination in them.
Is the water nice, Grandma?
The following Monday,
Leo asked.
I began my new
It's perfect,
professional
my
life.
love. My first
Why haven't
job
you
was
gotten in
organizing the
before?
cleaning for an office in
Because
downtown
I was
Chicago.
busy doing other things.
A simple,
But today I
straightforward
decided
job
the other things could
where
wait.
my experience and work
I
ethic
swam to
were
the
worth
far
more
end
than
of the
my
pool,
age, where the view of the ocean was most direct. The
My
water was
co-op
delightful,
colleagues were women like
warm,
me,
yet refreshing,
divorced,
and
widowed,
for the first time
mothers
since I
whose
arrived,
children had flown the
I
nest,
understood why people paid
employees
so much
discarded
money
by
for
a job
experiences
market
like
that
this.
preferred youth to experience.
Carrie swam over to
But
me.
together,
we
Mom,
were strong.
can we talk?
Together,
We're talking
we were
right
a
now.
formidable team. I mean, really talk.
Within 2 weeks,
Go ahead.
I had my own group
I'm-
of regular clients.
I'm sorry if we made you feel bad these past few days. If you made me feel bad? Okay. I'm sorry we made you feel bad. It was a step. A small one, but it was a step. What part are you sorry for? I don't know. All of it. That
An
you had to
elderly
sleep in
couple
the
who
living
needed
room,
help with a deep
that you
clean
had
of
to
their
cook
house,
every day,
a single
that
mother
we
who
didn't
needed support organizing
I
her
don't
son's
know.
birthday party,
include you.
a small business looking for someone
And what are you
reliable to
going to do
maintain their
differently?
offices.
I
For
don't
the first
know.
time in years,
What do you
I
want
woke
me
up
to do
each morning with a
differently?
purpose that had nothing to do with
I want you
solving
to treat
someone
me the
else's
way you treat
problems.
Mark. With
I had my own
respect.
challenges,
Asking
my own
me
goals,
what I want to do instead
my
of
own sense
assuming
of
what I'm going to
accomplishment
do
at the end of the day,
including me in the decisions about the vacation that I paid for. Okay, yes, I can do that. Really? Really.
That
But the most
afternoon,
profound
for the
change
first time
wasn't
since we
professional.
arrived,
We
was
did something
personal.
together as a real family.
One Friday evening,
We played water
after
volleyball
finishing
in the
my work
pool.
at the office,
All of us
I
together,
decided to go to the movies
laughing
alone.
and competing in a healthy
There was
way.
an American indie film
Nobody
I
had
wanted
to cook
see,
because we ordered
a comedy
food from
about
a
a
nearby
middle-aged
restaurant,
woman who
and
decides
when it
to change her
arrived,
life.
everyone helped set
I
the
felt
table and
self-conscious
serve.
buying a ticket for one
It
at
was
first.
the first day since
But
we
then I
arrived
realized
that we
that
actually
nobody
looked like a
cared.
family on vacation.
Nobody found it strange.
I was simply a woman who had decided to see a movie.
During
That
the
night,
film, I
after
laughed
the kids
so
went to
hard
bed,
that a few people
the
turned
adults
to
sat
look
on
at
the
me.
terrace drinking margaritas
I laughed
that
with
Mark had
abandon,
made for
with
everyone,
freedom,
including
with the
me
laughter
for the
of
first someone who
time.
doesn't have to control her
The
emotions
conversation
so as not
flowed
to bother
naturally,
anyone else.
without tension or resentment.
After the movie, I walked to a
Mom,
nearby
Carrie said
bistro
to
and
me,
ordered a glass of
"Tomorrow
wine.
is our last
One
day.
glass.
What
not
do you
two.
want to do?"
One glass
She
for
asked me what I
without
wanted to
having
do.
to apologize
She
for the
didn't tell me
expense.
what we were going
without
to do.
having to
She
justify
didn't
the
assume I would
pleasure
stay
of having
home
something
cooking
nice
while they
just
had
because I
fun.
felt like it.
She asked me,
As
"I'd
I
like to go
savored
for
the
a walk
wine
on the
and
beach
watched
in the
people
morning.
pass by
Just
on the street.
walk.
No rush.
I realized
no
something
agenda.
extraordinary.
Sounds perfect.
I was enjoying
Mark
my own
said.
company.
We can have a late
I
breakfast
wasn't waiting
and
for
then all
someone
go
to
together.
arrive to complete the moment.
All together.
I wasn't
including
thinking
about
me
what
as
Lily
part of
would
the
say
all.
if she saw me there alone.
That night,
When I
I
lay
was
down
simply
in my
present
comfortable bed
with myself
in my room with
and
an
it was
ocean
enough.
view, in the house that I
That
had rented,
night,
when I got
I
home,
realized I had
I looked
achieved
around my
something
small
that seemed
apartment with new
impossible a
eyes.
week earlier.
I no longer saw the
I
place
hadn't
where
just
I had waited
reclaimed
for
my
calls
dignity.
that never came. I had reclaimed my family. I
But
saw
more
my
important
sanctuary,
than that,
my space.
I had
my chosen
reclaimed
home.
my self-respect.
I moved some
And that
furniture
night,
around,
I
put on
slept
music
like a
I
queen.
loved, and made a
Because
dinner
I had
was
finally
craving.
understood that I was
I
one.
ate slowly. The last
Savoring
day in
every
Hilton Head
bite
dawned
with
perfectly.
no rush to finish and wash
a
the
cloudless
dishes
blue
to get on with
sky,
the usual
a sea
obligations.
as calm as a mirror.
Over the
and
following
a warm
weeks,
breeze that
I
smelled
started
of
doing
salt
things
and
I
new
had never
beginnings.
allowed myself.
But
I
the
signed
most
up for a
perfect
yoga
thing
class
was
at
that
the
I woke
local
up
community
without being in a
center.
hurry.
I
I
started
started going to a book
obligations
club where
without
women
that
my
feeling
age
of
debated
dread that had
novels
been
with
with
the
me all
passion of
week.
college students.
I
I
got
even
up
bought
at
a
7,
secondhand bicycle,
not because
and
I had to make
rediscovered the
breakfast
pleasure
for
of
anyone,
pedaling through Chicago's
but because I
parks.
like to watch the sunrise.
One Saturday morning,
From
while
my
having
private
breakfast
terrace
at a new cafe
with my cup of
I'd discovered
espresso in
near my
hand,
apartment,
I was
a
entitled
young
to the
woman
good coffee
approached my
now
table.
too.
I watched
"Excuse
the
me,
sun
are you
paint
Pear
the
11s?"
sky orange and pink.
Yes, I
Colors that
answered,
reminded me of
intrigued.
the quilts my mother used to
I'm a
make when I
journalist
was a
with the
girl.
Chicago Tribune.
One by one,
I was told
the
about
windows
the
of the house
donation you
lit
made
up.
to the women's shelter.
It's a very generous amount. Could we talk? I was stunned.
My
I hadn't
family
expected my
waking
donation
slowly
to get
without
media
the stress
attention
of the previous days.
I'm
because
not
they
looking
had
for
learned
publicity.
they didn't have a personal
I told her
servant waiting
honestly.
downstairs to
It's
solve
not
all
about
their
that.
needs.
I'm writing
Carrie
a piece
was
on
the
women
first to
who make
appear on my
brave
terrace.
decisions after 50.
She arrived with 2 cups
Your
of coffee.
story could inspire
one for
other
her,
people.
one for me.
I agreed
And a
to the
smile
interview.
I hadn't seen since
and
she
a
was
week
little.
later, my
Waking
photo
up on
appeared
Saturday
in the
mornings
newspaper
excited to go
alongside
to the
an article
park.
titled,
Good
"It's
morning,
never
Mom.
too late to
How did
start
you sleep?"
over. Stories
Like a queen,
of rebirth
honey.
after 50.
I brought you coffee.
The article told
Thank
my
you.
story without excessive drama, but with honesty.
It
She
talked
talked about
beside
how I
me
had
in
renounced
silence,
an inheritance
watching
to
to see
donate
that
it to
no
women
longer
who
looked
needed a
like a
second
witness
chance.
to my humiliation,
How I had started a
but
work
an
co-op
accomplice
with
to
other
my
women my
liberation.
age, and how I had
Mom,
learned to
I wanna
enjoy
tell
my
you
own
something.
company.
I'm
The
listening.
reaction was overwhelming. overwhelming.
Last night, I was
I
thinking
received
about
dozens
everything
of
that happened
messages
this
from women
week,
who identified with
and
my
I
story,
realized that
who told me about
I
their
don't
own
know when we
experiences
started
of
treating
leading
you
life
like our
liberation,
employee instead of
who
our
thanked
mom.
me for showing that your 50s
It was
aren't
gradual,
the end, but a favor
beginning.
here, some help there, an emergency here, until it just became normal for me to fix everything. One of
Why
those
didn't you
women
ever
became
say
something
anything?
unexpected.
Because I
My
was
first
afraid
true
that if
friend
I
in
stopped
years.
being useful, you would
Her
stop
name was
needing me.
Patricia, She
And
went
if you
by
stopped
Pat.
needing me,
She was 62,
maybe you would
a
stop
widow,
loving me.
and had gone through a
Carrie
similar
fell
process
silent,
with her adult children.
but I could see her eyes were
It's
moist.
funny, she told me one day as we
Mom,
had coffee
you
in
don't
Lincoln
have to
Park.
do things for us to love
I thought I
you.
had failed as a
We
mother
love you
because my
because
kids
you're our
didn't need
mom.
me. Now
That's
I
what Aaron
realize the
told me
real
yesterday.
success is raising
But
children who
actions
can
speak
fly on their
louder than
own,
words.
even if it hurts when they
You're
do.
right.
And from now on, my actions will be different.
And
It
what
wasn't
if
a
they
grand
don't
promise
fly?
with flowers and
What if they
violins.
stay, but only
It
for
was a simple,
convenience?
direct, real promise.
Then the failure isn't
The
yours
kind
for
that
raising
can be
them
kept,
wrong,
but theirs for not
the rest
learning
of the
how to
morning
grow
flowed
up magically. We
Her
had
words
breakfast
gave me
together
a
on the
peace
terrace.
I didn't know I
Everyone
needed.
helped prepare and serve
For the first time,
and then we went for a
began to
walk
see
on the
the beach,
situation
just
with
as
Lily,
I had
not
asked
as my
the night
personal
before.
failure, but as the result of a toxic dynamic that I had participated in, but no longer had to perpetuate. That night, at home, I wrote something I never thought I would write, a letter to myself. Not
Dear
as a maid
57-year-old
carrying everyone's
Carol,
things, but as the
forgive me for
matriarch of the
abandoning you
family,
for so many years.
walking alongside my
Forgive me
children
for
and
thinking you were
grandchildren,
worthless without
enjoying
the
the last
validation
day
of
of a
others.
vacation that finally
Forgive me
felt
for
like
believing
mine.
your only function in life
The
was to make
grandkids
people
ran through the
happy
waves.
who didn't know how to
Mark
value
and
your
Carrie walked
sacrifice.
ahead talking about
From
future
now on,
plans.
I
And
promise
Aaron
to
and
take
Brittany
care of
took
you as you
pictures that, for the
deserve.
first time,
I promise to
included
listen to
me
your
as an
wishes
important
and
person,
respect them.
not an invisible
I promise you
chaperone.
will
Never again be last on your own priority list.
With
Grandma
love
Carol
and respect,
Sophia,
the
my most sensitive
57-year-old
grandchild,
Carol
came
who
up
is
to me.
finally learning to live.
Are you not sad anymore? 6 months
When was I
after
sad,
that
my love?
life-changing confrontation,
The first few days.
I wake up every
You looked
morning
sad
with
when
a
you
feeling
watched us
it
playing
took
in
me
the pool.
57 years
Children
to know.
see everything.
The anticipation
register
of a day
everything.
that belongs completely
Sophia had
to
noticed
me.
my pain even when
This
the adults
October
pretended
morning,
it didn't
as the autumn
exist.
sun streams through
I
my
was sad,
bedroom window,
sweetie, but
which
not
I've now
anymore.
decorated in colors I
Why not?
love, not the
Because I
neutral
learned
tones I
something
thought
very
were more
important.
appropriate. I reflect on the journey with a mix of wonder and gratitude. My
What?
apartment is no longer the same.
That I have to love myself
I've
before I
rearranged
can
the
expect
furniture,
anyone else
bought
to love
plants
me.
that fill every
You
corner
didn't
with
love
life,
yourself?
and hung art that I
Not
chose
the way I
myself
should
at the
have.
Sunday flea market.
And now you do?
The photos of
Now I
Lily are
do.
still there,
But
but they
Sophia
no
took
longer
my hand
dominate
and
every
continued
surface.
walking with me,
Now they
satisfied with my
coexist with
answer in a
pictures
way
of
that
my
only
new
children
friends,
can be.
of my travels. The afternoon
Yes,
I've
passed
traveled more in
peacefully.
these 6
We
months
packed
than
together.
in the last 10 years.
Everyone pitched in without
of the
me
happy
having to
moments
ask.
I've built by
And we enjoyed
and
our
for
last few
myself.
hours in the pool.
The
This
women's
time I
co-op
didn't stay
has
on the
become
sidelines
something bigger
cleaning
than
up.
any of us
I got in the
imagined.
water with everyone.
There are 32
and
of
we
us
played
now,
until the sun
and we
began
have
to
a waiting
set.
list that forces
During
us to
our
be
farewell
selective
dinner,
about the jobs
Mark
we
did
accept.
something I didn't expect.
We've specialized in
I'd like to
quality
make a
services,
toast, he said,
leveraging the
raising
life
his wine
experience
glass.
that the traditional
To
job
Carol,
market scorns,
who taught us this week
but that our
respect
clients
isn't
value
something
deeply.
you're just
given. It's something you earn. And we hadn't been earning hers. Everyone raised their glasses.
Yesterday,
The kids with their
while
juices,
organizing a
the
retirement
adults with
party
their
for a
wine,
professor who
all
had
of
taught
them
at
looking
the
at
same
me
high
with a
school for
mixture of
40
affection
years.
and respect
I
I hadn't seen in
realized
years.
something powerful.
Thank you.
I am good at what I
said
do.
simply. Not because
I didn't
someone
need a
tells
long
me so.
speech.
Not
Mark's
because
toast
someone
had
had
said
said everything I needed to
but
hear.
because
I have real skills,
The
genuine
next day
value,
we returned to
something
Queens,
important to
but the
contribute
trip
to the
back
world.
was
completely different from the trip
My
there.
bank account, for the
This
first time
time,
in decades,
they didn't put me in the
has a
very
balance
back with
that
the
lets me
kids.
sleep peacefully.
Carrie insisted
It's
I
not
sit
a
up
fortune,
front by the window,
but it's
so I
mine.
could have the best view.
Money I
drove
earned
more
with my
slowly,
work, my effort,
making stops
my
whenever I
decisions.
wanted to buy fruit
Money
and
no
stretch
one
my
can borrow
legs.
from me.
No
The
one
kids
can take for
included me in
granted
their road trip games.
No one can use
Aaron
as a
asked
tool
me
for
for
stories about
manipulation.
when I was young.
And for
Last
the first
week,
time in
I bought
years,
myself something
I felt like the
completely
loved and
unnecessary
respected
and wonderful.
grandmother
I had always dreamed of
camel-colored
being.
wool coat I saw in a shop
When we
window
got to my
and
house in
instantly fell in
Astoria,
love with.
they all got out
It
to
wasn't
help me
cheap,
with my bags.
but it wasn't extravagant
Carrie
either.
and Mark came up to my apartment to make sure everything was okay. Aaron and
important
Brittany
thing
stayed
wasn't
to
the
play with the
price,
kids in my
but the
small
act of
garden
buying
while I
it.
opened the windows
For the
to
first
let in
time
some
in my
fresh
adult
air.
life,
I
Mom,
spent money on something
Carrie
beautiful
said
for
before she
myself
left,
without feeling
how
guilty.
about I come over for
without
lunch next
justifying
week?
the purchase,
Without the kids?
without thinking
Mark?
if that money could
Just
be
you and
useful
me.
for someone else. I'd love that. I tried it on at home
Should
and
I
looked
cook?
at myself in the mirror for
Let's
a long
cook
time.
together.
The woman
It was a
looking
simple
back at me
plan,
was no
but it
longer
meant
the
everything.
overwhelmed, self-sacrificing Carol from 6 months ago.
My
She was
daughter
an
wanted to
elegant
spend
woman,
time with me,
with her shoulders
not because she
back,
needed
her
something,
eyes bright,
but because
with
she
a
wanted
smile
to
that
know me
needed
as a
no one's
person,
approval to
not
exist,
as a
service provider. Pat,
3
who
months
has
have
become my
passed since
confidant
Hilton
and
had.
partner in adventure,
And my life has changed
recently
in ways
told me
I never
something I can't
imagined
get out of my
possible.
head.
Carrie
Carol,
comes for lunch every
for the
Wednesday.
first time since I've
We
known
cook
you,
together. We
you
talk
seem
about
to be
everything.
inhabiting your own
And
life
for the first
instead of
time
being a
since she got
spectator
married,
in the lives of others.
I feel like I have a real daughter.
She's right. Not just a person who calls me when she needs money.
For
Erin
years,
takes me
my
to the movies
existence
every
had been
other
an
week.
exercise in
We pick films
observation.
we both like. buy
I
a
watched
giant
to
popcorn,
see if Lily was happy,
and then go out to
if she
dinner at
needed
restaurants
something,
where I feel like
if
a
she
special
considered
guest,
me a good mother,
not the person who's going
my
to pay the
emotional
bill.
well-being depended
Mark
entirely
speaks to
on
me
external
differently,
indicators
with
I couldn't
genuine
control.
respect. He asks
Now,
my opinion
my
on important
happiness is my
things,
responsibility,
includes me in
and how
conversations
liberating
about
it
family
is to
plans,
discover I'm quite good
and has
at
never
creating
again
it.
assumed I will pay for
The book
family
club has
events
become
without
one of my
consulting me
favorite
first.
pleasures.
The
This month
grandkids
we're
visit
reading
because they
Eat,
want to,
Pray,
not
Love,
because their parents
and
make
while some
them.
of my fellow
We
members
play
think it's a bit
games,
too
cook
pop
together,
for
watch
our refined
movies,
tastes,
and they tell
I
me their
find this
secrets
story of a
because they
woman
know their
rebuilding
grandma
herself
Carol is
after a
truly
devastating
listening.
divorce to be
But the most
profoundly
important
relatable.
thing is how I see myself in the
Happiness is
mirror
the consequence
each morning.
of personal
I no
effort.
longer see a
Read
woman
Anne,
desperate to
one
buy
of the group
love.
members during our
I
last
see a
meeting.
62-year-old
You
woman
don't
who
just
knows her
happen upon
value,
it,
who
you
knows
make
her
it
boundaries,
happen.
and who isn't afraid
Those
to defend
words
them.
echoed in my mind for days.
I had
Last
spent
month,
decades
Carrie
waiting for
suggested we rent
happiness to
another
come to
house
me
for
from
spring
the
break.
outside. For Lily
Yes,
to love
I
me
told
enough.
her.
For
But
someone
this
to
time,
value me
we're
enough.
all going to chip in to
For
pay,
circumstances
and
to
we're all
align
going to help with
just
the
right
chores,
to allow me
and
to
I
be
get
happy.
to pick my room first.
Now, I
Of course,
understand
Mom,
that happiness
that's
is a
only
daily
fair.
practice. A series of
Fair.
small and
What
large
a beautiful
decisions
word
that
when
build
it
a life
actually
worth
means
living.
something.
Like the decision to take a
This
painting
morning,
class on
as I was
Thursday
drinking my
afternoons,
coffee on my small balcony, watching life go by on Ditmars Boulevard, I thought about the woman I was 3 months ago. The
Not woman
because
who
I have
slept
any
on other
special
people's
talent.
couches after
My
paying for their
landscapes are
vacations,
mediocre and my portraits
the
are
woman who
frankly
believed
questionable.
love was bought with
But
sacrifices.
because I discovered there's something
The woman who had
deeply
forgotten that
meditative
she
in the act of
deserved creating
respect
something
too,
with your hands,
and I
of
felt
focusing
something I
on
hadn't felt
colors
in
and
decades,
shapes without thinking about
pride in
problems or
myself,
other people's
not
responsibilities.
because I had gotten my family
or
back,
like the decision
though
to
that was
learn how to use
wonderful,
smartphone apps,
but
that
because
once
I had
seemed
gotten
too
back something
complicated.
much more valuable, my dignity. I know now that I don't need to buy love. Real love, the kind that's worth having, is given freely.
And
Now
if someone
I
can
can't
order
give me
a
that
ride
love
without
me
me
having to pay
anyone,
for it with
book a
humiliation,
table at a restaurant from
then
my
it
bed,
isn't love they're offering
and even
me.
video call the friends
That's why
I've
I
made in the
sleep
book
peacefully
club
every
when
night
someone
now.
can't make it in
In
person.
my own bed, in
Small
my own house,
independences
surrounded
that add
by
up
the
to a
respect
great
I earned
autonomy
by
respecting myself first. And when I lie down and close my eyes, I no longer hear the furious ocean of Hilton Head. I hear a calm sea, the sea that whispers, "Well done, Carol. Well done." That's my story. A
3
story
weeks
of
ago,
dignity
while
reclaimed,
walking through a gourmet
boundary
food hall
set,
buying ingredients
and
for a dinner
self-love
I was going
found
to
after
prepare just
62
for
years
myself,
of looking for
shrimp
it in all
scampi,
the wrong
my
places.
favorite dish that I rarely made because
Have you ever
Lily
felt
didn't
like you were
like
buying
seafood.
love with your dignity?
I ran into Mary,
Do
the
you
mother
know
of
someone
one of
who is
Lily's
going
old
through
high school
something similar
classmates?
to what I experienced?
Carol, how
Tell
are you?
me in the comments.
She greeted me
and
with
if
that
this
slightly
story touched your
exaggerated
heart,
enthusiasm
please
people
share it.
use when they don't
Maybe
quite
it
know
will
what to
reach
say.
someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to treat yourself with the respect you deserve. Give
How's
this
Lily?
video a like if you believe
The
we all
question that had
deserve to
filled me
sleep
with
like
anxiety
queens in the
for
lives we
years
build
now
for
seems
ourselves.
simply irrelevant.
And subscribe to the channel
I
so
don't
that
know,
stories like this
I
can
answered
reach more
honestly.
people who need to be
We
reminded
haven't
of their
spoken
own
in
worth.
months.
Because
Oh
at
my
the end of the
goodness.
day,
Did
the
something
most
happen?
important love we can
Yes,
ever cultivate
I said with
is
a calm that
self-love.
surprised me.
And that love,
What happened is
no
I
one can
decided I
ever take
deserved
away
to be
from
treated
us.
with
respect and genuine affection. Mary was left speechless, clearly expecting a more detailed explanation that never came. Because I no longer feel the need to justify my decisions to strangers, to explain my private life so others can judge whether I've done the right thing. That night, as I ate my shrimp scampi with a glass of Sauvignon Blanc, I reflected on that conversation. 6 months ago, running into Mary would have plunged me into a days-long depression, made me question all my decisions, and filled me with doubt about whether I was being too hard on Lily. Now I simply thought, I'm glad I could be honest without feeling ashamed. I've heard news of Lily, of course. Chicago is a big city, but circles can be small, and mutual acquaintances eventually bring information. I know she collected her share of the inheritance, that she moved to a more expensive apartment downtown, that she's still working at the same marketing firm. I also know, through Susan, my partner at the co-op, that a month ago, Lily showed up at the Target where we used to work, asking for me. She wanted my new address, my phone number, information on how to contact my mother. Susan, bless her heart, told her she wasn't authorized to give out that information, but if Lily wanted to leave a message, she would pass it along. The message never came. I don't feel resentment toward Lily. I've come to understand that she is who she is. A young woman who learned very early that she could get what she needed by manipulating her mother's emotions. I don't hate her for it. I have simply decided that I will no longer be the object of that manipulation. Sometimes, especially on quiet nights when nostalgia takes hold. I think of the little girl she was, of those genuine moments of connection we shared. Those memories no longer hurt me as they once did. I see them now for what they were, a beautiful phase that ended as all life's phases do. Motherhood, as I had conceived it, was over, and that was okay. In its place, something new had been born, a life of my own, an independent identity, a Carol who existed beyond her maternal function. This Sunday, I will turn 58. I already have plans. Pat and I are going to New Orleans for 3 days. We'll visit the French Quarter, wander through the Garden District, eat Creole food in the Marigny, and stay in a charming little boutique hotel we found online. It's a trip I'm paying for with my own money, that I've planned according to my tastes, that I will take in the company of someone who chose me as a friend with no ulterior motives. Last year, my 57th birthday was the turning point that changed my life. This year, my 58th birthday will be a celebration of everything I have built since. Yesterday afternoon, while watering the plants on my balcony, plants I chose, that I care for, that bloom for my personal enjoyment, I realized something extraordinary. I am happy, not the conditional happiness that depended on others validating me, but a solid happiness, built on a foundation of self-respect and self-acceptance. A happiness no one can take from me because no one gave it to me. Tonight, before getting into my bed with sheets I chose because I like them, and not because they match some family decor, I'll write in the journal I started 3 months ago. Dear Carol, today marks 6 months since you made the best decision of your life, the decision to choose yourself, the decision to believe you deserve love, respect, and happiness, the decision to understand that it is never too late to start over. You have proven that a 57-year-old woman can completely reinvent herself. You have proven that self-love is not selfishness, but emotional survival. You have proven that true strength isn't in enduring everything, but in knowing when to say, enough. Tomorrow will be a new day, full of possibilities that you will choose. And that, dear Carol, is the most beautiful gift you could have ever given yourself. As I close the journal, I look at myself in the vanity mirror by the window. I see wrinkles that tell stories of worry, but I also see eyes that shine with a light that had been out for too long. I see a woman who is finally living her own life, and I feel deeply proud of her. Before turning off the light, I have one last thought. If you, listening to this, have identified with my story, if you have recognized something of your own experience in my words, I want to ask you something. When was the last time you did something just for you, without justifying it to anyone? Think about it. And then, please, share in the comments if you've also lived through something similar, or if you know someone who has been in this situation. Your story could be the push someone else needs to make their own decision to choose themselves. If this story touched your heart, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, because these stories need to reach the people who need to hear them most. The women who believe it's too late to change. The mothers who have forgotten they are also people. All those who need to be reminded that it is never, ever too late to start living the life you deserve.